what it is. We practice inside and get things done, not like outside of court.
Good evening, everyone. We want to get started promptly at 6 p.m. this evening. We have a long but exciting event ahead of us this evening. So my name is Debbie Miller. I'm the president with the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce. And as a part of our mission, one of the things that we do is host candidates forums during election time. So it's my pleasure tonight to welcome all the candidates here. I'm going to introduce our moderator here in a couple of minutes, but I do want to introduce the other chamber board members that we have with us tonight. We have Dale Schnicker, we have Kim Harrison, we have Jim Olson, and we have Lenore Hotchkiss. And John Thomason, our board chair, is also our moderator this evening. So John, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point and let you give the rules and all the exciting things that are going to happen.
Okay. Just a couple of housekeeping items, if we could. We do have bathrooms out the door, kind of to the left, both men's and women's. If there is a problem, we have 3 exits, out that door, and out that door. I feel like an airline stewardess, you know, right there. So if there's any problems or anything like that, please use those exits. The only thing that we ask of the audience tonight is, first of all, pay attention. We'll be asking questions. We're also going to put the questions up on the TV screens so that you and the candidates can read them after they've been asked. The candidates have not seen any of these questions. They've all been presented to me by chamber members and reviewed by the chamber board and approved by the chamber board. So these questions, a lot of them are going to be related to business activities as we go along. The other thing that I would ask is that keep the applause and the boos or the whatever things that you might want to elicit towards one or more of the candidates. We need to keep this moving just as quickly as we can. So we'll start out with an introduction of the candidates and their opening statement. And we'll also have them have a closing statement at the end. We'll ask the press to present any questions they might have at the end of the program. Okay? Let's get started.
Okay. And we have one last board member that just walked in, Barb Bass. Without saying thank you. Hang on.
Okay, opening statements. Val, we can start with you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for arranging this event and my fellow candidates for participating. My name is Val Carr, and I currently serve on the Woodland Park City Council. I was raised in Wyoming, Montana, and Minnesota with a strong Midwestern work ethic. I graduated from CU Boulder with a BS in aerospace engineering and first worked for CDOT as a civil engineer. My career transitioned to a systems software engineering guru in communications protocols, military communications, and operating system software. Eventually, I formed 2 very successful computer and software companies and retired at age 45. As president and chief engineer, after that, I was a Mr. Mom and cared for Dad and volunteered extensively, including coaching, web and blog design, and sound engineering. I've lived in Woodland Park since 2004 with my wife, Sherry, who is an accomplished tag teacher, now retired. We have 7 adult children. I have no current businesses nor real estate development interests. I have also served on Woodland Park's Board of Adjustment and Charter Review Committee. I'm a fly fisherman, I'm an opera singer, as well as a rock and roll singer. As mayor, I will change how council operates to represent citizens only, not the good old boys network, run city council meetings with more decorum and civility from council, in the practice of rubber stamping city staff demands, convince council and the new city manager to do zero-based budgeting instead of annual wish list budgeting, present the new city manager with past ideas for budget savings and methods of efficiency that maintain city services. I have several character qualities to be successful as Woodland Park's mayor. Friends describe me as independent, tenacious, driven, loyal, hard-working, intelligent, lots of common sense, practical, honest, frugal, patriotic, logical, dry sense of humor. What you see is what you get, personality, very forthright, financially conservative, rule of law and order advocate. I'm seeking your vote for Woodland Park. Thank you very much.
Hillary?
Hi, I'm Hillary Labar. I have a law degree from the University of Denver. I'm a 4th generation Coloradan. I lived up here for about 5 years. I love Woodland Park. This is my hometown. It's where I've made best friends for life. It's a great group of citizens and people, so I'm really proud of it. And I've had those groups of citizens and friends come to me and say that they're concerned about the direction of City Council. They're concerned about overreach by our tiny government, and so am I. And so I thought, well, instead of complaining about it, I'm going to do something about it. And I decided to run. So I'd like to run with the idea in mind that I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in small government. I believe in checks and balances. And my intent is to thoroughly represent you as well as I can.
Neil?
Thank you. Excuse me. Good evening, and thanks to all who are here in attendance and listening at home. My thanks to Deb Miller and our Chamber of Commerce for setting up this very important forum. I have worked and or lived in this community, the community I love, for 27 years. My wife Paula and I have raised our family here in Woodland Park. We taught our sons the importance of being a part of something bigger than yourself for the greater good. Paul and I hope that we have shown them by example, by contributing to our city and citizens in every way we can. Almost 4 years ago, I stood in this very spot and pledged my commitment as mayor of Woodland Park in a very difficult time. The opportunities to serve this wonderful community, our citizens, our businesses, and our visitors has been one of the most rewarding of my entire life. I hope you would agree with me that the primary responsibility of municipal government is to provide for the safety and well-being of our citizens. We do that very well. We do it with properly trained and equipped police department and crews that keep our schools safe and our streets and sidewalks well maintained. We do it by we do it by providing the best tasting, safest drinking water anywhere. And we do it by taking care of the wastewater our water consumption generates and by taking care of our drainage systems. Truly, these processes seem mundane and not all that much fun, but they are what keep us safe. Our goal has always been to ensure that we provide the best quality of life possible for our community. We have great parks and playgrounds, outstanding park and rec departments. Most recently, we built, on budget, a state-of-the-art aquatic center. In fact, the budget for the project was so well managed that we were able to add the large indoor-outdoor slide we didn't think we could afford. Our great quality of life is also due to having proper zoning.
Neil, need to. Time's up.
Excuse me, I didn't see.
Okay.
Excuse me.
George?
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
Go ahead.
Thank you, people of Woodland Park City staff, the business owners, and the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce. This is an impressive event. The overall candidacy process coming together here tonight. I sincerely am excited about this. In fact, I mentioned just yesterday how enjoyable this process overall has been. Over the course of the last 2 months, I have had hundreds of conversations with neighbors, friends, fellow citizens regarding the direction of our city. Being a candidate for city council, I have learned requires one to listen to others, to understand the depth and the complexity of people's concerns, develop an informed position, and finally present that position back out to the community as your own. The words you choose, the tone, the inflection, all available to others, for others to judge. Quick introduction. My wife, Lynn, and I moved here just over a year ago. We have 3 children, Kelsey, Nate, and Sam. Kelsey's a CU grad, master's from Boston University. She's up in Denver working at Anschutz Medical Center. Nate is a graduating senior from Miami University in Ohio, computer engineering, and he'll be working with NASA this next fall. And Sam, who's here tonight, is a sophomore at Rensselaer Polytech in New York studying aerospace. Lynn and I met while attending Ohio University. We both received our bachelor degrees there, and we've been married for over 30 years, just over. So leadership. Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. I'm here tonight to offer my experience as a leader in service to this wonderful city, to bring a fresh perspective to the council, and to be an ambassador to our city, to the region at large. My specific experience includes 30 years as a software engineer, engineering leader, and more recently a senior consultant with DXE Technologies, a spin-off of Hewlett-Packard. I've navigated many political waters. Oh,
that's it. Time's up. Sorry. Kelly?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to participate this evening. I am honored to be in a position to possibly serve this awesome community again. So exactly why in the world would I run for Woodland Park City Council? Well, with a unique set of skills that I've earned in the 17 years as the city's finance director and treasurer, your finance director and treasurer, I'm determined to help address and correct the much-needed fiscal recovery plaguing our community. I value all citizens' input and will actually listen, not just listen, but hear your concerns, help implement our best collective ideas, and continue to ask for your input well after the campaign trail has been trampled and traveled. My experience is one of my greatest strengths, and I look forward to you challenging me to utilize those experiences in new ways as we work together in making our community the best it can be. With me, what you see is what you get. I have no hidden agenda, no political aspirations. I'm simply here to help. And with your help, I know we can make the changes necessary to see our town surpass our potential, yet remain the quaint community we all love and are proud to call home. Thank you.
Noel?
Testing. Hello, my name is Noel Sawyer, and I'm running for re-election for City Council. I'm passionate about Woodland Park and want to make sure, as a representative of this unique and amazing community, that we continue to have the quality of life that we appreciate and expect. Woodland Park is a welcoming, fast-growing family community that offers a full range of opportunities to all. In the last 4 years, I have had the honor to be part of an enhancing quality of our community. An award-winning memorial park and a beautiful and inviting aquatic center are just some of the amazing additions to this already beautiful small town. So what's next? With the involvement from the citizens and businesses, I will continue to look at the future opportunities and ways to improve our dynamic city. Technology is a priority to me. We can bring efficiency and savings to our small community through technology. We also need to look at expanding our small family parks, downtown walkways, residential sidewalks, park and recreational programs, and more traditional annual events to support our strong business community. I will be a leader that proactively seeks guidance from our community and will work with citizens and businesses for results that benefit everyone. I am so proud to live in Woodland Park, and as your council representative, I want and will make sure that other cities look at us as the shining city above the clouds. With strong support of the community, we can achieve anything. It is the positive nature of this community that has inspired me to continue my role on City Council in one of the most beautiful places on earth, Woodland Park. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
My name is John Schaefer. I'm married to my wife. We've lived here in Woodland Park for 15 years. I'm answering the question, why am I running for re-election? And this election presents a unique opportunity for the Woodland Park citizens to replace our liberal mayor and some progressive council members with those who are more conservative. The city has grown significantly over the past few years, and I think it's time to reverse that trend. In addition, the city manager has submitted his resignation, and it is time for a change. Hiring a new city manager is the responsibility of the city council. Nationwide search will be conducted over the next few weeks and months, and perhaps finding a more conservative city manager will be another important step in our city's transition to a more responsive form of government. As a home rule city, we must be transparent in our dealings with our taxpayers' funds. We must rely on many timely public hearings to keep our citizens up to date on plans for projects and improvements. Another reason I want to serve for 4 more years is that I'm concerned about the future economic health of our city. Our current health is strong, with tax revenues increasing with every year. However, the scarcity of new projects and businesses indicates that the city is neither business friendly nor is there a competent marketing staff. The current labor pool will not support new companies should they want to move here. There's no affordable housing for employees and the workforce. Business property taxes are exorbitant and have caused many businesses to disappear. The only jobs being filled now are those of the service industry. Thank you.
Mark?
Good evening, Woodland Park. It's great to see so many familiar faces. Can you hear me? Good? All right. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting together an event this evening. As many of you know, I'm Mark Maruzak. In the last few weeks, just like everyone here, I've been on the campaign trail. It's been a very fun process. During this process, we've hung out, I don't know how many door hangers, and it's been a pleasure to meet those of you in the community and talk with you. One of the one question that I'm always asked is, why are you running? And for those of you that know me, you know that I'm very driven because of my family and my family values. Like many of you, my family and I are transplants. My wife and I originally grew up in rural communities in Michigan, and we've since moved from Austin, Texas with our family. We love the small town feel that Woodland Park offers and the proximity to the outdoors. And since we've moved here, our family has truly flourished. Some of the positive things that have happened is my wife originally stayed home with our children when they were young, and she's since resumed her career as a teacher at Columbine Elementary, joining our children. The children have excelled in this unique environment and everything that our community offers. Because of this positive impact that I've seen in my family, I will quickly realize we were here to stay. Over the last few years, I have regularly attended city council meetings and had many conversations with the citizens. I realize it's my time to give back to the community. As the city is in a transitional period, it has been a busy few years, and and in the near future we'll be welcoming a new city manager. There are a lot of changes, and this provides a unique opportunity for us as a city. For more than a decade, I've been working in the financial services and commercial banking industry, and feel the experience will be will provide solid financial insight as we move forward.
That's it, Mark.
Sorry.
Well, if you thought that the 2 minutes was short, wait until we cut you to a minute and a half. You might want to really pay attention to. You might want to really pay attention to Deb. She will be holding up the 30-second sign, and we're going to try to hold you to those time limits. So, I'm going to start off with a little bit of an easier question. Okay, hold on. We're going to get everything up on the board there, I think. Enlarge it. Okay. Hillary, this is going to be starting with you, and we'll go around. Neil, you next. What do you think is going well in the community, and what are you proud of?
Oh, well, there's a lot. I'm proud of the citizens. I'm proud of how they interact with the city. I'm proud of all of the volunteer communities or committees that we have up here. We've got the DDA and Main Street and numerous other committees that people take their time to serve on and help with. And I'm really proud of the business owners and how hard they try to bring people in, to bring up our economy. And I'm just genuinely grateful that I live here. And I've enjoyed everyone that I've met on the campaign trail and how dedicated and devoted they are to this town.
Okay, thank you. Neil, same question.
Thank you. I know what's going well in our community. This is the greatest community in the world to live in. It's hard to argue with that. We provide great services for our community. We're well ahead in infrastructure relative to the communities around us. We provide great amenities for our community members, and we have the greatest community of people that I can imagine dealing with.
Okay. Thank you. George?
Thank you, Jim. I would echo what Neil just said a little bit differently in that I'm very proud of the city services that are provided here in this town. We've moved, Lynn and I have moved to 3 different cities aside from Woodland Park. And by far, this is one of the most impressive in terms of the city services and the way that the city functions. It's important because there are a ton of events up here. So I'm really excited. That was one of the things that drew Lynn and I to Woodland Park, not only the beauty and the surroundings of the location, but the number of events that occur in this town over the course of a year is impressive. And in order to sustain that kind of event-driven mentality, if you will, you've got to have a good face on this city. So the services that are provided here, I think, are very important. And then lastly, I'd say, one of the things I love to do, we just started a business here in downtown Woodland Park. Thank you, Debbie. And I love to go up to Memorial Park, so I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you. I am proud of this community. Excuse me. My voice is going, so my answers will be brief. Because of the cleanliness, the pride that people take in the way they present our city, whether it's in downtown or in the neighborhoods. They're all clean, they're tidy, there's not a lot of trash. I remember when Colorado Springs was that way, and anymore it just seems to be a little bit more like a big city. I think we still have that pride here in keeping things clean and neat and presentable. And I'm also proud of the mentioning of the events that we have in town and the way citizens get involved, whether it's an event that's for fun and entertainment or whether it is getting together for Keep Woodland Park Beautiful and picking up the trash, keeping things neat and tidy. People are ready and willing to get involved and help out wherever they need to.
Thank you. Noel?
I'm going to make sure my mic is on. It is. Thank you. Woodland Park, Colorado. What an amazing town. It's a smile on my face to think about the people, the small businesses, the outdoor activities, and the fantastic views that we enjoy every single day. My journey to Woodland Park began in 2001. As a young married couple, my wife and I wanted to live someplace unique and different. My wife and I looked at all the mountain towns down the Front Range, and this was the right town to raise a family. It was just right for us then, and it's just right for us now. Woodland Park offers the right size community, good schools, family atmosphere. These aspects made us want to move up here and get involved in every event and activity. Woodland Park has a welcoming feel with community events, holiday parades, and the best farmers market in the state. The most important, the commitment of the citizens and small business in making this a wonderful community. You ask what I'm proud of? Everything. I'm proud of everything in this town. I brag about it when I travel. I brag about it when I go to Texas. I brag about it when I go to Florida. I brag about it when I go to California, to Ohio. I brag about it when, where was I? I was in Germany. I made sure I had my Woodland Park, Colorado Springs jacket, but close enough. So I'm proud of everything. Thank you.
John?
My wife Mary and I first discovered Woodland Park in the 60s. There wasn't much here then. But I like to drive through here on the way to fly fishing at Decker's and Cheeseman Canyon. We were living out at the Air Force Academy at the time. I was teaching in the Department of Aeronautics. We decided we'd come back here to retire. And we did finally. It took 32 years, but here we are. And I could echo the comments made by my colleagues here, but a couple of other things in what they've mentioned are the Aquatic Center and Memorial Park. Very proud of those. And Mary and I hope that we'll spend the rest of our lives here in Woodland. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark?
Well, I think a lot is going well in Woodland Park. I think, we have some beautiful parks and amenities. We have a very safe place to live. It's, one of the things that I think we often take for granted here is the fact that we can let our children out and play, and we're not worried about, them being in the front yard. And I think that really speaks to our police force, which is another thing that I think is, we do very well as a community. We also have some tremendous events, as some of the other candidates have discussed. Some of the things that I'm really proud of is I'm proud of that safety. I'm proud that we can do that and expose our children to the world in that way. I'm really proud of what we have as far as our memorial park, and the fact that we really continue to strive to keep this a small community, and we have a lot of pride in that.
Thank you. Okay. Val.
Thank you. Appreciate it. My colleagues have pretty much listed everything I would suggest also. The Memorial Park renovation and the Aquatic Center are beautiful enhancements to our community, and for which I hope we get many decades of family use and enjoyment. My big focus is trying to get more families involved and younger people involved, and those are two great aspects. One of the things that many of you may not realize is we have so many other parks here. There's tremendous parks everywhere. The city staff is just spectacular. They do a great job, not just Parks and Rec, but everybody. We've got a great city staff, and they keep our parks. You really ought to investigate all the parks we have. Another huge thing is our volunteerism in this town is unbelievable. I've never been anywhere that it's like this. From Main Street to churches, everybody volunteers here. Proportionally to the population, it's got to be extraordinary. I'm involved in the local arts, and I love all the local artists that are here. Like I said, the city services are great, including snow removal. They're right on top of that. All the events that we bring up here, we're going to try to bring more events. And the local brick and mortar businesses are so unique. Many of them just wonderful. I'm just really proud of this whole community and the views. We all relish every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Neil, we'll start the next question with you. What are the duties of an elected official of the City of Woodland Park? And please answer that for the position you're running for.
Okay. First and foremost, I think it's obvious. The mayor needs to represent our community. I think I've done that well, created a lot of relationships throughout our community and the surrounding areas, the entire county, including certainly Divide and Cripple Creek, but also El Paso County. And so for me, that's first and foremost how the mayor, in my case, represents our community.
Okay, thank you. George?
Yeah, thank you. I think first and foremost, the duties of a city council person are to listen to the citizens. That is it's in our charter. That is what we were constructed to do, is to listen, and then to, in like turn, be the voice. So those are I think that's the predominant duty that we have. Secondarily, well, I'd say in a similar fashion, We are also a quasi-judicial board, so we have to run those judicial functions, and that pretty much rounds out that representation, the ordaining of law, right, creating of law, and all of that based on how well we listen and represent our citizens, and then adjudicate that.
Okay, thank you. Kelly.
Yes, sir. As George so eloquently said, the foremost duty of a city council person is to represent the citizens. They need to be heard. They need to be, everything that they bring to us needs to be taken into consideration. And that brings me to the next thing, is balancing those things with the needs and wants of the community with our responsibilities to the law and the things that are written to guide us each day. One of the other most important things in my perspective, for some reason, is fiscal oversight. The City Council is the body that appropriates funds for spending and lays the groundwork for what that looks like, meaning just because we have it and we're collecting it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to spend it. There's always an opportunity for savings, and just like you do with your personal finances, you need to save for a rainy day, and that needs to come before you spend, and spending money that you don't have. Debt is a very delicate, balancing debt with our assets is a very delicate act, if you will. I hope you can hear me. It's going away.
Only a few more hours.
Thank you very much.
Noel?
That's a very good question. There's so many different avenues you can take with that as a city council. The fact I've been on city council for 4 years. Wow. Leadership is definitely number one. But what's very important about all us up here is we want to make sure the prosperity of this community continues on. We want to be able to provide an environment for the businesses to grow. We want to provide an environment safe for the families. We want to provide amenities, aquatic center. We've got beautiful parks. We've got beautiful small parks. So when I think about what my job is here, it's to make your life better. That's it. It's make your life better. And through ordinances, through keeping the city clean, gosh, I could go on and on and on. But really it comes down to safety, prosperity, and well-being of the community. That's my job to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Noel. John?
What they said.
Good answer.
I think it is a good answer. Better answer than I'm going to have. One of the things that was mentioned early, though, was that listening. And sometimes we have a hard time listening, or listening well, or as someone else said, well, really hearing what's being said. We are your representatives. We sometimes treat you shabbily. What can we do about that? Some of you complain, and rightly so, and I always try to listen. Some of you are happy, and I like to hear that as well, with the aquatic center, for example. We want to make certain that the city services are maintained in the way we are all accustomed to enjoying them. I've served on the council now for 6 years, so I'm running for my 3rd term. I'm term limited finally, but that would be a total of 10 years if you were so kind as to elect me. But that's a long time, and I hope that I have done some good things for you and only a few bad things. One of our key duties, of course, is approving the budget every year. And so we need to do that probably a little more thoroughly than we have been. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Mark?
Well, to kind of piggyback what everyone else has said, I think the biggest thing that we need to bring is we need to be advocates for our citizens. And, certainly there's, a lot of different opinions, and I know I've really come to realize that as I've been out in the community and talking with people. And it really runs the gamut, and I've been, compiling that. A list of all these different topics and everything, and it's amazing how all the different opinions that are out there. But I think a lot of times we don't take into consideration all the parties that are involved, and that needs to be something that we need to do as advocates. I think also a big part of it is with the budget process, and we need to be fiscally responsible. And this is, something that is paramount, and that's a major part of, our function here as a city, as a council. Excuse me. Oh, well. I'll leave something for someone else over there. Val, grab a tidbit or something. I don't know.
Go back to your
I said maybe you get his
go to the introduction.
Thank you. So the city council, including the mayor, which I'm running for, is elected by voters to represent them, setting policies and budgets for the city. Oversight is their main duty from the voters in monitoring the corresponding administration of those council decisions. So no matter what we do, a lot of it has to do with oversight. When fresh opportunities arise in this oversight role that demonstrate potential operational or budgetary efficiency, council is obligated to relay to the city manager those ideas from the citizens and the community. Mayor, city council, we all have one vote. We're all representing the citizens. We're trying not to put our own slant on things. But one of the things as mayor is you're constantly promoting the city, which is just a spectacular. It's an easy city to promote, right, Neil? As mayor, I'll endeavor to pursue many more diversified events and activities complement our natural resource and environment. We have many recreational features to promote, including trails, views, fishing, picnicking, ATV, and off-road access. Some of the business interests for our visitors, including many varied dining experiences, lodging. Our western atmosphere, mountain atmosphere, is special with specialized shopping. Is unique for rural, small-town businesses. I've got the threads so I can represent and get in public appearances very well. I appreciate your time. All of us are going to be promoting Woodland Park. We love it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Hillary?
Well, to reiterate what everyone said up here, other than I don't know if I can represent with the threads quite as well, but I'll try. But it really is, the purpose of City Council is to represent the will of the voter. It's to create policy and budget, again, at the will of the voters, for the city and oversight of the city government and administration on behalf of the citizens. To focus on the proper role of government, to do our checks and balances, to not overreach, and to not have anyone up here that has self-interest in this position other than your will. And that's what I believe City Council's role is.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Okay, George, we'll start this one with you. This is a two-part question.
Oh, great.
Okay? Awesome. Basically, what is your understanding of a home rule municipality? Mm-hmm. And for the council members, what is your understanding of the city council's role in governing? And for the mayoral candidates, how do you see the role of mayor in a council manager form of city management, city government? Does that make sense?
Sort of.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let me see if I can break that down a little bit. So, home rule. Let's start there. Home rule was established early on. Actually, it was established under what was considered to be a progressive party at the time in early 1900s. In the mid-1970s, it became very fashionable to to empower cities to come out from under the auspices, if you will, of the state. And so we, Woodland Park, the city of Woodland Park, took that on, took advantage of that, created a charter, a city charter. And to your second part of the question, as a council person, that is what we are to do. We are to administer that city charter. And I will let you know that I have read through that charter 3 times now, and I have committed as well to go through the comprehensive plan, a whole different conversation. But I will tell you the framework around the charter is fantastic. I think the original authors did a great job putting that together. But that is our mission. That is what we do. And that's what home rule allows us to do, is to, in essence, manage our own town.
Okay. Thank you, George. Kelly.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Home rule is very simply, we have our own charter. That is our constitution, if you will, to compare it to the state or federal government. If you are not a home rule town, you are a statutory town, and therefore you follow statute to guide you in your daily business and gives you the regulations that the city or town must operate under. In a home rule city, you operate under the direction of your charter and your code. That's basically what it's about. Some examples that are provided by being home rule: you can create your own sales tax code. The City of Woodland Park has its own sales tax code. Sometimes it emulates the state, sometimes it doesn't. But that's what guides the execution or the enforcement of that code on business sales tax collection. My understanding of City Council's role in governing is to do that, is to be sure that the terms and the conditions as laid out in the charter are being adhered to, that city code is being followed, and that's done through giving the authority to a city manager in our form of government. City manager hires competent staff that executes those duties in the field, if you will. There you have it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, how do I follow a textbook answer? It's almost impossible, but thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm not going to go over the home rule because it was all laid out so nicely, so thank you about that. But my job is to enforce those rules, enforce those ordinances. We do have a city manager that does the most of the work with a staff. Our job is just to give direction to that city manager. And we can come up with ideas. We've been doing that for 4 years, and we ask the city manager to look into that direction that we want the city to go, and sometimes it makes it happen, sometimes it doesn't. I will tell you, we do a lot of easements agreements. So if you come to city council meetings, that's a way to get a good night's sleep. Thank you.
John?
The city does have an attorney, and it's her duty to make certain we are not violating the charter. I think back in the days when you had an opportunity to select whether you wanted to be a home rule city or you wanted to follow the statutes, most of us would feel a little more independent if we were home rule and thought we were running our own government here, which is in fact what we do. Another fact about the charter is it can only be changed by a vote of the citizens. So we won't be changing the charter unless somebody brings a petition and offers up a ballot question with proper support and the citizens vote it in. Otherwise, the charter cannot be changed. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, John. Mark?
Well, that's tough to follow because I think we've gone over what a home rule municipality is. I think as far as our role as governing, from our perspective, the charter is our Bible, and we're going to follow that to the T, and ensure that we're enforcing the appropriate codes and rules outlined in that charter. So,
thank you. Al?
Thank you. So, like everybody else, home rule has been explained pretty well. Basically, we set up our own charter, our own rule. It's dedicated under the Constitution of the State of Colorado as a special entity, municipality. So how do you see the role? So the mayor is the presiding officer for the council. He signs contracts. legal dignitary and cuts ribbons, kisses babies, things like that. Even though a lot of us try to do that ourselves. All the ordinances and things the council decides to do in the council manager form of government, the mayor is the one who puts his name on the line, on the bottom line, and does all the legal work for the rest of the council on behalf of the council.
Thank you. Hillary.
The only thing I can add to the home rule, the home rule municipality is that state law is still supreme, just like federal law is supreme to the states. So if we have a law that would be in conflict with the state would overrule. For the mayor and a council manager form, mayor is a part of council, and I'll reiterate what Val said. He signs the contracts, though, does a lot of the legal details, but he also works with the city attorney, so he's not on his own on that, which is good. So, and I think everyone else answered it really well, so I don't think there's much I could add to their answers.
Great. Yeah, and I agree with everybody. And the real benefit, I think, is that we can create our own charter. So we, in a sense, get to manage our community the way we want to manage our community. And the bylaws that we create those are the rules for the community. It's my job, it's the council's job to make sure that those rules are followed to the T. And so I'm glad we're in a home rule city where we can do things that we feel best for our own community, and we don't have to abide by state statutes that might necessarily fit well for Woodland Park. So it's a good thing to be a home rule city, and I think we manage that well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Starting with you, new question. The city council makes decisions based on majority rules. Once a particular decision is made, how would you discuss an issue out in the community if you were not in the majority?
I believe that we are a team up here. We are a cohesive group, or at least we should be, and that we need to accept the decision of the majority. It's one of those things, as we say to each other sometimes in personal relationships, we just need to agree to disagree and let things go forward. I would not carry the message that my council members don't know what they're doing. They didn't vote the way I wanted them to, and so they don't know what they're doing. I would never do anything like that. I would still probably represent my point of view, but accept the decision of council and move forward.
Okay, thank you. No.
Since I've been on 4 years of council, I would have to say I've been on the good end and the bad end. So I've been on both sides of an issue, and I really I try to take the emotion out of the decisions. So once a decision is made by the council, we work together to reach that goal, period. That's it. We are unanimous as a group to reach that goal. There is no he said, she said. We step down from this dais after we make a vote, and we are focused on that goal of that decision we made. And that's how it should be. I don't know why. If it's different, then we need to address that. But right now, once a decision is made, regardless, we move forward and we put it in the past. In fact, that's an interesting thing that I just thought about, is that going to CML conferences, they talk about always moving forward. Don't stop and ponder on the past vote that you maybe won or lost. You move forward. You make that decision, you move forward. You keep moving forward. You keep moving forward. Don't hash something that was 2 years ago. That doesn't help anybody. Always move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
This is not to say that we can't have some interesting discussions at council meetings. I've been on the losing end a lot, it seems. It's the 4-3 vote. But my compatriots here are saying the right things. Sometimes I have difficulty, but nonetheless, you've got to present a uniform position to the public. To my friends, I might say something a little different, but nonetheless, we are a body, and we are a governing body, and this is a democracy, and the 4-3 vote wins. And we have to learn to accept that. And I have, for most of the time.
Thanks, John. Mark?
Well, I don't know. I tend to relate to sports really well. So, I think especially from a city council perspective, we're a team. And there's always going to be different ideas on a team and different opinions as far as, how to reach a goal. And I think when when a decision's been made, obviously in council, we have the opportunity to debate that. We have public comment for, people from the audience that want to, have input on that topic. But in the end, when a decision has been made, if it is a 4-3 vote, we need to support that. We need to support that as a council and for our community, because we need to, give a positive, just be positive about what we're doing.
Okay. Val?
Thank you. So all of us on City Council, including the mayor, are all elected by the citizens. So I know when I've been on City Council, I get a lot of interaction with the citizens. I walk around, I get phone calls, I get emails. I try to base my consensus and discussions with the rest of the council based on what the citizens want, not necessarily what I want, because I'm just one citizen. So with 8,000 citizens out there, I think we all try to represent on council all those citizens. So we all come with our different ideas and different people that we talk to apparently, and we come to 4-3 decision or 7-0, whatever it is. Once we make those decisions, we move to implement those policies without discussion. Now, out in the public, in the community, if somebody asks me, well, you didn't win that vote, I said, yes, but you need to understand that this is the council's decision, and if you have an objection to it, then you need to come and speak at council, because we welcome people coming up in the public to talk to us. On the other hand, this is the policy, this is how it's going to go, and if you want to make future changes, you need to come to council and explain to all of us your policies. Everybody's one voice out there. It needs to be magnified if they want to do that thing. So I'm out there. So the question is, once is made, how would you discuss an issue out in the community? I'm happy to discuss both sides of an issue with people. Thank you.
Hillary.
Well, for me it depends, because if I'm not in the majority, but it's something that my constituents wanted, then I owe them an apology. And I need to tell them that I'll work harder to influence my peers the best I can next time to make sure that they represent my peers and my constituents in the manner that they want to be represented. So that's how I feel about it. And I'd also like to reiterate what Val said. I also agree with him that I'm out in the community, people have questions for me, they want to know what's going on, and I'm willing to speak with them. And I also strongly encourage them to get involved and to show up and to bring their voice with them, because that's what can make the difference in a majority vote. So.
Thank you. Neil.
My dad imparted this wisdom on me. Guys especially, and people that know me have heard me say this, guys, right, always want to be right. My dad explained to me that it's a better approach to try to get it right. And so he talked about respect and talked about other people's opinions and talked about consensus building and doing the right thing with respect. And so we have all been on the wrong side, if you will, or the opposite side that we would have liked to have been on in many cases. And for me, and my approach will always be the same. I will always respect the decision of the council, and that doesn't mean that when I'm in the community, I might say respectfully that I don't disagree with the decision that was made, but I will always support it.
Thank you. And George.
Thank you. So the question sounds kind of negative in that maybe this was happening. But I'd like to kind of turn it around just a little bit and say a 4-3 decision or a 5-2 decision is not a bad thing. That is debate happening. That's that's representative government in action. So I kind of look at that and think, if everybody was voting 7-0, I would be a little disturbed all the time, right? So to have that kind of debate happening is great. Now, what you do with it beyond that, I agree. Neil, I think, said it very well. It's respect the decision thereafter. That's what leaders do. Every one of these seats needs to be filled with people who can accommodate that respect and bring that back out into the community. This is how the community is going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. No, we'll start with you this time.
Give me a good one.
Okay.
An easy one.
We hope they all are.
An easy one.
Oh, that's different. If elected, what will you do to foster good working relationships between the mayor and council members and between the council and the city staff?
Wow. I don't think there's really, that's kind of an interesting question because we're all very, very good people, right? I guess, right? Is that?
Yeah.
I've the last 4 years, I've done nothing but work with my council members, work with the mayor, work with the city staff. I've always done that. I don't see, it's kind of an interesting question to me. We, as the last 4 years, we've always talked to each other and worked out issues before we came to council, and then we discussed those issues in front of the public. The city staff is there to help us out. They are top-notch. They've done everything I've asked, and I've helped them out. So it's kind of an interesting question to me, but really, a lot of that's already being done.
Okay, thank you. John?
I'm not ready. Could you talk a little longer?
Our police department is doing phenomenal. I support them 100%. We need more officers to make sure the safety and security of our community is that good enough? Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
You all right now?
Thank you. One of the things that we try to do, and some of us could stand some improvement, is thank people when they do good jobs. City staff does excellent work for us. They do all the heavy lifting, as well as the planning commission, and making recommendations to us. Some of us are slow to do that. I tell my wife I'm working on it, but the key, I believe, is trying to treat everyone with respect. You may know, and I'll let someone else explain it, maybe Hillary, is that we cannot sit and talk business more than two of us. And so, ex parte or whatever it might be called. So that makes it difficult in some cases if you'd like to get together and talk about some good work that was done, that you can't violate that rule, and our attorney reminds us of that from time to time. But I would suggest, we are optimistic, happy people, and we thank those who are doing good work and service for us, and we're happy to be sitting beside Mark and Noel. Thank you.
Mark?
As far as fostering good working relationships between the mayor and council members, I think this just goes back to what we all learned in grade school is we need to treat others as we'd like to be treated, and I think when we look around, there's a tremendous amount of talented individuals here that bring a lot of varied professional experience. We need to be professional, as we work together. I think it's great that, we have an opportunity for an open forum and, to have discussion and debate. But we need to be respectful of each other's opinions. And so I think that's one thing from the mayor and council perspective. Between the council and city staff, I kind of look at this as in two different ways. We're in a unique place where we're going to have a new city manager. And from a city manager perspective, and as they're coming in to a new work environment, a new city, new processes, everything is new. We need to give that individual an opportunity to be successful and, really learn the environment and, be respectful of them. And then I think, one thing that we have to do from city staff is we do have a tremendous city staff that does a lot for our community. And we need to be mindful of that and thankful that we have that. Thanks.
Thank you. Val?
Thank you. So communication, that's what it's all about. Communication. As I believe Councilman Sawyer said, we can only get, or Schaefer, one of those guys over there, said you can only have two of you together at once. So there's a lot of one-on-one communications. We talk things out. We come to compromises. Noel and I have talked things. He brings up issues to me with a different perspective, and I say, "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's go halfway," or something like that. We do a lot of good working relationships with communications. Neil and I talk together a lot. I think communication is really how you foster good working relationships. The mayor has sort of a lead role. I always welcome my council people to put in as much effort as I do. They are reluctant about that sometimes, but I'm just kind of obsessive as an engineer. Between the council, mayor, and the city staff. So the city staff is always available. The city manager always makes the city staff available. They're receptive to questions instantaneously. Communication, once again, is the big aspect there. They're always available, and we have super professionals in the city staff that are right on top of their subjects and always have ready questions answered for us. Thank you.
Okay. Hillary, did you want more time since John directed something towards you? You're supposed to answer his question now.
No, actually, I think Val took care of that for me.
Yeah.
So it was with the meeting of two council members at one time. So, because I just think we should all be able to get together and have a big open party, but we can't. But I think to foster a good relationship, it's definitely communication, letting people know that you are appreciative of the work they're doing because it's not easy, and making sure that they're not being micromanaged and you don't have anything to do with the micromanaging. And if you're ignorant of a subject, definitely go speak with them because they are well-versed and educated in the positions that they have. And then letting them know that they can come ask us the same if they have questions of us or if they need help with something, and we can direct them to the proper channel or assist them in some way, shape, or form. So.
Thank you. You?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's been pretty well said. I would start with the communication piece, and I would say this: we have those 4-3 votes, and we can only speak to one council person at a time. And so, honestly, I don't think I've done a great job or our council has done a great job of interacting with each other on the side. We don't have to have 3 or 4 people to do that. But as John alluded to and Val, we can speak with each other, but then we can include everybody. So I could speak with Mark and John and Noel and Kelly. And so I think we need to do a better job in that regard. That said, I think it all comes down to, and again it was mentioned, but respect and civil discourse and not saying things that aren't true. And that has a way of dividing people. That has a way of putting a knife in things, if you will. And so, that civil discourse piece is really, really important to me. And I just think at the end of the day, and it starts at the top, I'll be the first to admit, we need to do a better job of communicating with each other.
George.
Thank you. So I think, well, I'm not eighth in this one, but I would agree with a lot of what folks have said. It does come down to communication. So let's hit the first part of this, the mayor and the council. If I can dive down into the communication aspect just a little bit more, I think that the key to having solid communication is problem definition. Agree on what the problem is. Move past the emotional aspect of it, and let's get down to data-driven decisions. As an engineer and as a leader, that's exactly what we have to do in the private sector all the time. I think that it would help facilitate and get everybody on the same page, but facilitate decent conversation. To the city staff, I mean, that's an interesting one. I've been able to attend, I've had the luxury of attending city council meetings every other or twice a month, missing maybe just a few. I have been calling them our date night, so I've been dragging Lynn along with me. I know. But the one thing that I totally appreciated is the city staff in the way that they've conducted themselves during the council meetings. They've really kept the council running and the city just functioning like it is. So to the points made, I think appreciation to the city staff just needs to continue and be more. Right? Thank you.
Okay. Kelly.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think both questions can be answered with two great words. One is being respectful, both in our verbal communication and our body language. To both our colleagues, our staff, and our citizens, I think being respectful takes us a long way. And I think another thing is to humble ourselves and be grateful. Gratefulness is a trait that will take you a long way in any relationship that you have. And really, this is just a relationship among people. We have a big job to do, but we can be respectful. We can be grateful for each other's service. And I think those two things will help foster a much better relationship. And always, it's not hard to be grateful for the staff. I've been there, been that person, and it's very much appreciated. Staff works very hard and develops the information the decisions are based on with the help of people that give input, be it a development item or anything. The staff brings the information to the public and to the council for consideration in making decisions, and they're important decisions. So being respectful in your communications, being grateful that you have each other.
Thank you. John, I have a long one for you. What is the importance of developing new and maintaining existing relationships with other municipalities and regional organizations such as CDOT and more? How focused on government collaboration do you believe the city should be, and what is your experience with this type of outreach effort?
All right. You sure it's my turn?
I got it written down right here.
Okay. Can I pass? Well, let me begin by saying we have an organization that is called the Colorado Municipality League, and they provide some services and overhead kinds of things for us. They have an annual conference which some of us usually attend, which it consists primarily of workshops. So you get a chance to sit and work with folks from other municipalities and experts for CML who are helping us or making us aware of some of the kinds of services and advice they can provide. I think most of that is good. We also have other organizations, one in which the mayor participates, and that's the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And I believe Neil sits on the board. And they are looking at problems and priorities for the region, ranging from things like broadband, transportation, how organizations are working together or aren't working together. So we take advantage of those. We have an opportunity, for example, through one of our county commissioners even to talk about transportation needs. And some folks are even talking about, is it time to bring up a bypass for Woodland Park again? Let me tell you, that's being discussed now from what I understand. Neil knows more. We can learn from other organizations, and we certainly try to do that. Do we work actively with them? Some, we do. City manager and others on the staff work with the Colorado Department of Transportation. And my time is up. Thank goodness.
Mark? You guys like these real long questions. This is really interesting. So, I think, especially those that are, in the working world right now, and even those that aren't, relationships are just paramount as who we are as individuals and as people. And I think from a municipality and regional organizations and some of these others, you have to have those relationships. I know in my day-to-day business activities, those relationships, make things happen. And if you have those relationships in place, you're able to, expedite things, move things along at a quicker rate. And so I think that those are very important to develop and to nurture over time. As far as how focused we should be on it, I think it's very important because as we find over time, different cities are going to deal with different problems or have positive things that they do and bring to the city. And those are things that we want to emulate here, and look at as possibilities to, solve some of the issues that may be coming up in our own communities. So, I think it's extremely important that we are collaborating on a regular basis with the different municipalities and that.
Okay, thank you. Val?
Thank you. It's very important, obviously. I get a lot of this interaction when I go up to CML annually. I take tremendous effort to go to as many functions as I can, and part of that's because we get exposure to other municipalities and how they're doing different things. Some of them are ahead of us, some of them are behind us. Some of them always try to look at a city manager home rule type of situation to have parity with similar experiences. But CML is a tremendous opportunity. You get to speak with people. My special interests are broadband and transportation interests. And we have people who work with TAC, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, with the bypasses was mentioned. There's a lot of things you can get from working with other communities. Longmont, for instance, is a model for broadband, for instance. So I think it's important to collaborate. How focused, a lot of the city staff is invested in doing that 24/7 or 365, whatever. And we on city council and the mayor do our best to, as volunteers, we still get paid zero, right? To interact with these organizations. I worked for CDOT when I first came out of college, so I have some experience with that. A lot of the other municipalities, we deal with Teller County issues in collaboration with them. It's very important that we speak with them and the commissioners and all the staff up in Cripple Creek and Tamarack. I believe our regional organizations going all the way down to El Paso County is invaluable for us to interact with as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Hillary?
I think collaboration is very important. I know from working with some developers up here how difficult it can be to work with CDOT and how they can either make traffic flow or they can make it so we can never turn left again. So It does matter, and I know that a lot of the council members here go to CML. Some belong to boards, and you get to interact with other municipalities and bring back that education, and I think that matters so that we can make good decisions for the city and for the growth of this city. I also have gone to other city council meetings and met with other council about how they're handling the growth of tiny home communities and building in their communities as well. And so I think collaboration is necessary so that we know and can learn from other communities that are our size or larger and how they're doing well so that we can follow suit. So.
Thank you. Neil.
You know, I've lived my life by creating relationships, nurturing those relationships, and living those relationships with my family, with my friends, and with my colleagues. So for me, it couldn't be any more important. I've been fortunate as mayor to be on the Pikes Peak Area of Council of Governments, where I now stand as a vice chair. And it's important because not only do I sit next to Commissioner Norm Steen from Teller County, who chairs that organization, but also get to interact with others in our community, meaning El Paso County, people that I've known for a long time, Sheriff of El Paso County, Bill Elder, you know, a guy like John Southers, who I've known and worked with for a long time. I don't think you can ever overestimate the value of these relationships. And I'll give a great example. At PPACG, we got a gap project now that some of you may or may not be familiar with, but the 2 lanes from Monument to Castle Rock, we all drive almost every day, a lot of us. And so the point is, the relationships that have occurred in that organization brought a project that was not even on the radar to fruition. And it happened in a matter of a year. And it happened at a cost of about $300 million. And so this all happened because of the great communication and the great relationship between everybody in our Council of Governments. And so, I just can't overemphasize the importance of relationships, whether it's within your own community or with the communities that surround us.
Thank you, Neil. Jordan.
Thank you. So Woodland Park is not an island. We don't sit up on the 8,500 feet elevation by ourselves. And by the way, as you all know, and you probably know more than I do, we are, I think there are 5 points of ingress and egress into the mountains. So there's a lot of commerce, there's a lot of traffic that goes through Woodland Park. So for us to again, flipping that question, it's absolutely vital that we have relationships beyond Woodland Park. We have, obviously, Neil's talked and Val talked about CDOT. You've got ambulance, you've got fire districts that are beyond Woodland Park. You've got the counties, Teller, Park, El Paso, all of which are critical. The police, our safety services interact with other police statewide and gather intelligence and information from other police forces. So all of that needs to be coordinated. It's extremely vital that we have those kind of relationships and maintain those kind of relationships. So that said, the latter part of the question there, I think, was experience with that, and not having been on council or in a government position before, I can only say my experience is in the consumption side of it, and I appreciate that. Teller County does a great job for us, El Paso with driver's licenses and so on. So that's my experience with it. Thank you.
Kelly.
Thank you. This is a question that's come up recently in some town halls that have been held with one of our county candidates. And we've discussed this very question about collaboration. And I'm going to speak to the county just as just a different perspective. In Woodland Park, we have lots of areas that we refer to ourselves as being in the city or in the county. Well, we're in the county whether we're in the city or not. And so we need to always remember that we are part of Teller County in Woodland Park. And so it's important. I think the mission of the city and the county are very similar. They are to serve the public and the citizens. Without them, they wouldn't have a job anymore. So collaboration is important. It brings a lot of opportunity, if you will. There's chances even maybe for economies of scale if we talk to each other and not operate in isolation. So that's one example of something that's a little closer that we can reach out and touch. When we get into the state, CDOT, things like that, that's obvious that those collaborations are important because CDOT goes right through the middle of our town 2 times with 24 and 67. So collaborating with them and talking to each other is important, particularly if it comes to projects. For instance, when we did the revamping and changing 24, there was a lot of collaboration there, and it really came to be. They did some things we requested. We did, of course, did some things they requested. So it's important that we talk to each other and work together to a common end to benefit our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
You know, I wish I had a question that was easier and I was last because everybody would have answered it and I could have just said what everybody said, but I can't here. So if you've watched me on council, I like to tell stories. And so I have an interesting story about working with another municipality. There was one time where we were doing a VERC, and Val and I were working behind the scenes and coming up with ideas on how to save money with vehicles. So I went ahead and called up Fountain, called up their city manager, said, hey, what do you got going on for your vehicles? What do you guys do? Because I want to see what these other cities do. I mean, doesn't that make sense? So I talked to the city manager for a while, and he said, well, we lease our vehicles. I said, you lease them? Okay, well, let me pass you over to Don, our city finance director, and he can tell you all about it. So he went over the lease program and how it works, and so I brought it to Val. I think, do you remember that, Val? Yeah, see? And so we talked about leasing, and after we looked through the numbers, it wasn't affordable. But I created a relationship there. And then I started looking at IT, because I'm an IT guy. And I want to bring IT in-house. So I called up Don, and I said, Don, what do you got for IT? What do you guys do? Well, we've bought our own servers. We spent a lot of money. Let me send you over to our IT guy. So I started talking to him, and I learned all about their infrastructure. But that's a perfect example. There's nothing wrong with just calling up another municipality and saying, hey, what do you guys got going on? What are you doing to be efficient in this area? What are you doing to save money over here? And I do that. Before there was a Val Carr, I called up Centennial and asked them about broadband because they were one of the first cities that did broadband in Colorado, and they implemented it great. And so I was working with one of their representatives to figure out how we could bring broadband to Woodland Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, this question will start with you. What is your understanding of the relationship between the City of Woodland Park, the Woodland Park Council, and RE2 school and the RE2 school district?
Sorry, turn your back.
We can only see.
Can we shrink it? Can you do a percentage and shrink it?
Oh, it didn't get down there, huh? The City of Woodland Park,
Got 2
the Woodland Park Council, and the RE2 school district.
Okay.
Woodland Park School.
You know, as far as the.
That's the last one.
All right. Yeah. Well, as far as the city is concerned, you know, I know that the city collects the sales tax revenue that ultimately the 1.09% that is, they collect it on behalf of the school, and the school does that. As far as the council is concerned, I certainly, there's probably decisions that are going to be made in council that could potentially impact the school, but I think for the most part, the school district the RE2 school district has its own governing body in the school board. And so, certainly there should be some collaboration between them as we're, having to work towards a common interest here within the city. But, I look at those as, they are separate entities, and I think it kind of goes back to our prior question, is that we need to, collaborate with these other entities that we, have, especially within, our jurisdiction. So,
thank you.
Can you flash that down before we start? Because I want to make sure I answer the whole question. Council, RE2. Thank you. And back here. Okay. So, school funding support is not a function of the City Council or the Mayor, except to engender atmosphere of services and infrastructure to enhance families' participation in the community services and businesses. One of the things that will help the schools is my vision strategy initiative to gain high-tech infrastructure for our town will attract many more families and students to work and live here, thus expanding our school's student base and expanding state funding. So what we do in the city of Woodland Park and the council will affect directly or indirectly the school's attendance, the interest in entrepreneurs to move here with higher speed universal, and whether it's private or public or private partnerships is irrelevant. We need to study. The entrepreneurs who will come because of these unique ideas that we can generate in city council and in the city will expand our families' interest in moving here. Entrepreneurs will come and have a demographic that's a younger demographic. That will help our schools. Another thing we can do is through our safety officers is to have better safety education and policy, policing advocacy for, as we know, the schools having some problems with potential assaults, physical, sexual, or bullying, and the city council can help by budgeting for the city staff to enhance the school resource officers.
Thank you. Hillary?
Well, Val's answer was pretty thorough. So, but one of the things I realized was just being at a coffee shop the other day, I ran into a police officer who was going to a school safety symposium just last night, and anyone was invited. You had to RSVP, and unfortunately, I couldn't make it. But I do think that our knowledge and participation in school safety could be very beneficial to the RE2 school district. I think just speaking with our officers and school board and having at least a general knowledge of what's going on in our schools if we don't personally have children that are attending is important for us to know so that we can help foster a thriving, good, safe school district for our citizens.
Okay. Neil?
Thank you. One thing that I pride myself in is trying to improve the relationship between city council, the city, and our school district. It's hard to argue that the school system, the school district, is integral in our community, and they're continue to work and strive to get better. And I think the relationship between the city and the school system can always continue to improve. And it goes way beyond safety in the schools, although that is first and foremost for sure. But we have an opportunity to work with a great group of people that are fostering our kids' education. And I can't think of anything more important than a close relationship between our city and our school and Board of Education. And that's one thing that we can all get better in. I've strived to do everything I can in that regard. And so I think we all need to think in those terms, the importance really of the Woodland Park School District in our community, and as we move forward, how that reflects on our entire community. I don't think we have one individual business that's any more important than our school system.
Okay, thank you. George.
Thank you. So, as Val pointed out, in the Woodland Park City Charter, there is no defined relationship between RE2 and the city of Woodland Park. But the beauty of what's transpired over the years, more recently, the citizens of Woodland Park have said that they want to fund, with a sales tax, part of the school system. I believe it's about $2.2 million projected for next year, for this year, 2018. There are many underlying, or let's say, tentacles that really do support, bolster RE2. The police is a great example. We've talked about it here a couple of times, but resource officers are funded from the police force and from the city of Woodland Park. And then, of course, everybody's kids go there, and the community in general, so getting away from the city council's support of it, the community absolutely is and needs to continue to be behind that school, or our schools here. They are gems, they are investments, if you will, for those of us who don't have kids going here, in our properties and our businesses. They're certainly investments in the children and the kids that go to school. I would love to talk more about the school side. Hopefully we're going to have more questions about that, although we're not tightly coupled. Right? It's okay, but there's some great things that we can be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly.
Thank you. I have to agree with some of the comments made about the police department and the SROs, meaning the school resource officers that are dedicated and available to the schools for safety purposes and for education. Education is primary. I think that's a big key to some of the issues we're facing around the country in the safety in our schools. I have, in addition to my finance director and accounting background, I also have done a lot of audit work for municipal governments, and I'm probably going to step on my toe here, but I have to say that I was not a proponent for the sales tax. It's not an appropriate funding for school districts. The city has given up its opportunity to increase sales taxes in the event they need that, in the event of a crisis. And that's part of the reason that sales taxes are not a typical funding source for school districts. However, it is what it is, and we're moving forward. In my experience with auditing around other school districts and cities, since I left the city, people were very surprised that this took place in Woodland Park, and it hasn't happened elsewhere unless I've missed something in the news. So they're interested, and they're watching us to see how that works. I guess I'll close in saying that I welcome the new administrator they've hired. I think he is an exciting change in our school district, and I look forward to hearing what his new ideas are and approach for improving our children's education and performance in the school district. I think it's exciting, and performance is always important. Kids are great and important asset in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Noel?
I will tell you from experience that we have a great relationship. Most of you don't know that I am the varsity soccer coach for the high school. So I am involved in certain activities that go on at the school. I know most of the administration. I would say I wouldn't know all the teachers, but I know a lot of the teachers. Very professional. very easy to work with. Your kids are in good hands. Our relationship with the city council, actually the city's relationship, if we're talking the city staff, are we talking the city or the citizens of Woodland Park? You never define that.
All of the above.
All of the above. We do have an IGA for RE2 school district to collect the 1.09% sales tax. We collect it, and then we distribute it to the school system. That is started out at 1.8, I believe, and George might be close, that it'll be either 2.1 or 2.2 million this year. The community voted unanimously to fund the school, and that shows unwavering support of how our community feels about our school system. Our school system is the future. It's our future. It's the future of our kids, so we need to fund it. And being a member of the school and working with them, it's a good school system. Thank you. Oh, you know what? I got 30 seconds. Let me add to that. We had a recent issue with some threats to the school. I remember going in to talk to my son Monday morning. This was the couple days prior to the Wednesday that it was the threat. The police presence was amazing. I walked out of there proud to be part of the school, part of this community, and knowing how our community stood up to this type of threat. Thank you.
John?
The only thing of questionable value I might add here is that the school population continues to shrink, and that concerns many of us. Certainly the $2 million, the tax increase, has helped them bring in new teachers because they've been able to raise starting salaries as well as giving raises to teachers who've been there some time. So stop the loss of staff. Beyond that, I agree with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Val, this one's to you. What qualifications should the council seek in the next city manager?
Thank you. As you know, the city council is going to choose the new city manager, and hopefully the whole spectrum of high-level managers will be considered from both public and private sectors. The current council is looking through the applications. The basic job ad says that they'll have supervision of 6 to 7 senior department supervisors with about 100 full-time and part-time city employees total. Proven senior management experience of at least 5 years is preferred. Graduation from an accredited four-year college or university with a degree in public or business administration, business management, engineering, or closely related field. At least 5 years management experience of senior department heads or senior principal engineering supervisors. Private sectors and supervisors with making a payroll experience are welcome. We have not defined absolute characteristics at this point. At one point, it was suggested that we have absolute criteria. We've received a bunch of applications. We're going through them and doing the best we can to eliminate people based on basic job ad descriptions I see there. We all have different ideas on what the qualifications should be. We kind of put them in this job ad. So. Additional thing, engineering project supervision and understanding are critical to many of the supervision functions of this position. Our former city manager had that in ACES, and so we recognize that as a valuable entity for the city manager. Obviously, working with the city staff, being personable, being flexible to work with the city council. The city manager is hired by the city council. The voters hire us to hire those people, the city manager, the city attorney, and the city judge. And it's critical that the city manager works in both directions, up to the council and back to the city staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
Yeah, point of order.
Yes.
Could we take a break at
Yes,
some
we
point?
Can we go through this
Sure.
question and then we'll...
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it's
Hillary.
tough to kind of follow the guy who helped write the guidelines for the new city manager. But I do think that project management experience would be very beneficial. Obviously, personnel management, the education qualifications are important. I think someone who works well with others, obviously, but not just in the logical sense, but also probably in the empathy sense. Because you've got a lot of people you have to manage, and those people have families to deal with and other struggles that are happening every day. So you need somebody who can be in touch with people logically and emotionally. And I'm not real big on feelings, but that is important when you're managing that many people. So, and I've read the qualifications that the council has put out there for requirements, and I think that they're fantastic. And I can't really add anything to that. They've done a really good job. So,
Thank you. Neil?
When I think of our next city manager, I think in terms of leadership. I think that's always first and foremost. The city manager, in a sense, is the face of the community, maybe even more than the mayor. And so I'd like to find somebody that sees the value of the tremendous staff that we have right now, is not a micromanager, lets our people do their job, and then creates the relationships along the way to help Woodland Park be a better place to live. And again, I always fall back on the leadership aspect. I think that's really important. Leadership is a difficult thing to define. But somebody that can work well with others, for sure. I think that's first and foremost. We need that people person, and that can drive us in the right direction and continue to make Woodland Park one of the great places in the country to live.
Thank you, Neil. George?
Thank you. So I define leadership as discipline, strength, commitment. And I think that the next city manager should exhibit those kind of qualities in their previous roles. I'm looking forward to interacting with that person as they come on. The only other thing I would throw out there, aside from the wide swath of characteristics and qualifications, is a continuous learner. Someone who's always seeking new opportunities or learning new, whatever it may be. Technology is moving very quickly. We all need to stay up to speed. It's a cornerstone of mine to continue to be abreast of the latest, especially in technology, as that's my occupation. But I would like to see that in the city manager as well. Somebody who can be forward-thinking and continuously learn.
Thank you, George. Kelly?
Thank you. I agree with Hillary that a successful project manager or management experience to work within a project budget is critical. That's been a challenge for a great deal of time, it seems. However, I believe we need to rein that in. I think it will be a while before we can afford many projects or anything in the way of a project, particularly in our general fund. Utility funds are well positioned for the improvements they're making and have saved for many years to do what they're doing, and they are needed. I believe it's important for that person to be able to quietly and strategically manage what we have. We have a challenge ahead of us in creating the funding we need to pay for the operations and maintenance of the things that we've built. Sky's not falling, but it could. I think that we need someone that will allow the talented staff that they have do their jobs and do what they do best. I've been in that position, and it's important, particularly in the department heads. They've been hired to do a job, and they need to be allowed to do that with creative thinking and the freedom to do that and the authority to carry those things out. And finally, again, I have to bring up two words that are very important in interaction with people, and that's being respectful and grateful. to the citizens, the council, and the staff at all times. Thank you.
Thank you. Noel?
I'd like to just point out that because we're in the middle of searching for a city manager, I almost feel like this question is inappropriate at the moment. So I'm going to answer it very simple. I'm looking for someone that has both private and public experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I want to focus on an attribute already mentioned by Hillary and Kelly, but I think it's extremely important. And while we're probably not looking at any new capital projects anywhere near the magnitude of Memorial Park renovation, the Aquatic Center, it's still important, I think, to jobs large and small. We ought to have someone who has the experience or the sense to put in place professional standards to govern our controls for implementing new capital projects. Some of you may not realize, but the overruns on the renovation of Memorial Park and the new Woodland Park Aquatic Center are almost unbelievable. And I'm talking about 50% overrun on both projects. Clear evidence that we lack the professional experience to manage multi-million-dollar projects. Our new city manager has to have the right kind of program management skills that we feel comfortable that he can manage projects large and small for us. Thank you.
And Mark?
Well, it's not too often we get to create a wish list, if you would. Yeah, I think in the next city manager, I think whenever you're looking at any organization, you're always looking to bolster and any perceived weaknesses that you have. And so, I think those are some of the things that we need to look for in this individual. We've been continuing to grow as a community for some time, and I think if we had someone that had experience going through some of those growing pains, so that we can help us recognize some of the bumps that we're going to possibly see in the road, I think that would be great. Additionally, I think a number of the other candidates have discussed this, is the concerns over finances. And I think someone ideally that could come and has a proven background in finding efficiencies and working those budgets effectively. I think it's very important, a strong leader, and I think one of the things with a leader is being able to a strong communication. I think a lot of us at various points have really wondered about transparency and different items that have gone on in local government, and a lot of that can change if you're communicating effectively and if leadership is doing that. So those are some of the things that I would really like to see in our future city manager.
Point of order.
Yes, we're going to take a break right now.
Well, before we do that, can I?
Sure.
I have a bit of a rebuttal. And it's more of an inquisition, I guess, or an inquiry back to John. Councilman Schaefer, the comment about the 50% overrun, I just want to understand and make sure that citizens understand, but I want to get your perspective on this. The city manager reports to the city council, right? The city manager, the city council is where the buck stops. The city manager brings a budget to the city council, correct? And asks for approval to move forward. Thank you.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
That was your rebuttal. Okay.
That is true. And I will try to stay out of the weeds, but it's hard to do with your statement, your question. On the city council are people who have extensive experience managing large projects. I am one of them. The proposal came Offers were made by a couple of us to look over the proposal, make comments, offer to get involved in the program itself. All of that was refused. And when I say refused, you might think, well, you're the council. How can I refuse it? I had maybe one other council member on my side. I have, in fact, and I don't mean to sound immodest, but I have managed Air Force programs in the multi-hundreds of millions of dollars. I know how to run a program. I offered some expertise and some support, was not wanted. The contract, the bond issue was for $10.1 million. Ultimate cost, we're not sure what it is, probably $14 or $15 million. Way behind schedule. And Neil is sitting there shaking his head no. And I think an audit will prove otherwise. So that was the basis for my comment. With respect to Memorial Park, another $1.5 million. So if you're looking at millions of dollars there in these two projects, $17 million in total for both, for example, do you know that amounts to $2,250 for every man, woman, and child in Woodland Park?
Okay, let's take a break.
All right.
Everybody, we'll get 7 minutes.
7 minutes?
7 minutes.
We can't get out of here in 7 minutes.
Use your bathroom back there.
John or Debbie.
Waiting for Hillary?
Check, check, check.
Well, unfortunately, she was the start of the next question, so.
Go to Neil.
Yep, that will do. Okay, we'll do that. We'll start with Neil, and we'll come back to Hillary the next round, okay? If council chose to make adjustments to the budget, where would you propose to make those adjustments and why? Please be specific.
I'll wait for Hillary to sit. A number of years ago, when the pool was being talked about, one of our city council members led the charge to reduce the unassigned fund balance from 17% to 10%. I firmly believe that any extra money, we need to get back to that number, somewhere between 17 and 20% for an unassigned fund balance. And that's as specific as I can possibly be.
Okay. George?
Thank you. So, in part of the conversations that I've had, I am talking about strengthening or maintaining strength of our city. But that's not across the board. We have core services that we need to continue to support and or grow. We'll have what I would consider then non-core services that need to be prioritized differently. I think it would be disrespectful of me to just say very specifically this, or this, because that it's just anecdotal stories at this point that get you to that point. So rather than just go off of a list and say, well, I think this one or that one, I would recommend, whether I'm elected or not, that the council invoke a prioritization of the departments, core and non-core, and look at key performance indicators in each of those departments. How are they functioning, and where do we focus those dollars so that we can maintain strength in our city, in our public safety, all of our services that we define as core, and then the rest prioritize down. This is a very typical private sector budgeting, budget allocation thing.
Kelly?
Well, I think the community has heard me for 2 years now, talking to the council about their fund balance, their unreserved, undesignated fund balance. My mic's not on? Thank you. See? That's why we don't mute. Anyway, I'll start over. Our unassigned fund balance reached critical levels, and I've been visiting council about that for 2 years. I've been in the newspaper, I've been on television because I've been very vocal and very pointed about it. I was appalled. I can tell you specifically where I would make changes, and I've said it at the last budget. It's absolutely unthinkable that raises are given to city employees when there's $100,000 in the bank. Replacing vehicles. When we went through this back in 2008 or before, forgive me if my years are wrong, I made that up, but we went through no discretionary spending, no increases in wages, frozen positions. Positions weren't filled if they were vacated. We lived without new vehicles. We lived without anything that wasn't necessary to provide basic city services. That's what it takes, folks, to fix a fund balance. At that time, it was $400,000. This time, it was $100,000. That doesn't make 1 2-week payroll. It takes hard choices. and hard decisions to be sustaining and to fix and to repair a fund balance. We were at over $2 million. It's hard work, but that's what you have to do.
Thank you. No?
Hey, I like this question because I actually prepared for this statement. So I'm going to read this. This is good. Thank you.
I must be the judge.
Yeah, okay.
Get on with it.
Life is about needs and wants. Memorial Park and the Aquatic Center are big wants. It's time to look at what we need and not what we want. We got what we wanted this year, and I am pleased with how Memorial Park and the Aquatic Center turned out. They are beautiful. They are both an incredible addition to our community and will have lasting impact in the future growth and prosperity of this city. But now we have them. It's time to slow down and let the dust settle and focus on the budget. And then there are several challenges that will continue to address, there are several challenges that I will continue to address with the council in the next 4 years. The budget is always the most important. As a fiscal conservative, I'm always looking for efficiencies in the services provided by the city. Efficiency leads to budget savings. My goal for the budget is to raise services while lowering costs. I want to make sure that we have smart budget reductions, not budget cuts that reduce the quality of life to our community. There is a tipping point with a budget reduction. There is a tipping point with budget reductions where we will actually spend more money in lost efficiency. That was quick. Holy cow.
John?
Excuse me. I need a cough drop.
Yep.
Ooh, look at that. You're down to a minute. You're down to a minute.
I will never challenge Kelly on the budget, discussions and lines.
It's true.
And one of the things I always liked about her when she was our finance officer, treasurer, whatever you want to call her, I had a lot of one-on-one meetings with her, and I always got an answer. If not immediately, then soon thereafter. And I never thought she was trying to manipulate the numbers at all. So I can't add anything to her list. I will say I have an agreement with Neil on this, and that's the emergency reserve, I call it. Neil said, yeah, we got it to 10% this year's budget. We ought to go to 17. I think we ought to go to 20 plus. Let's see, Noel brought a report to us from El Paso County where they hired a consulting firm to look at their budget, their expenditures, revenues, and forecasts, and they said you El Paso County need an emergency reserve of something like 20 to 27%. So we need 20%, I think, and we'll worry about a larger one later. I'm done. Thank you.
Can I go ahead? Debbie, can I go ahead and respond to that since he did bring up my name?
I was going to ask for rebuttals.
Rebuttals will be after.
Yeah, we'll ask for a rebuttal. Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I feel like this kind of hits in my wheelhouse, my background in finance and as a commercial banker. I've had a lot of discussion about this and looked through the budget. Had discussions with the city and city staff on the various things. And, it's going to be really interesting. I talked about this a little earlier with a new city manager. I think, part of what I'd like to see there is some increased efficiencies. And I think it kind of piggybacks what everyone else has been saying. And I'm also, a strong organization has a strong balance sheet. And, if you have reserves in case of emergency, it makes all the difference in the world. So I would also love to see those increased from where we budget at the end of the year at 10% to 20. That would be great. But some of the other things, I think we need to consider is we need to really be mindful where we are going into our future. And I think a lot of us worry about the safety of our community. And I know that our salaries from a police force perspective are somewhat low on the scale. And, we have a tremendous amount of turnover in that. And that's one of those things I think as we look into future budgets, we need to plan for as a recruiting tool. And that's something I think that impacts all of us in our community and that we need to be mindful of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Val?
Excuse me. Thank you. I think everybody up here is cold. The adjustments in the budget, I'm always after more reserve, just like everybody else has spoken. The fund balance should be as much as possible, not limited by a certain percentage. Balancing community-provided services and staff to reasonable levels. Reasonable is always the key, but often ignored in balancing return on investment and needs versus wants. Do we need free ice cream or we just want free ice cream? We are one wildfire and one multi-week Highway 24 closure away from financial problems for our citizens. Our debt obligations are also great enough to concern many of our community. The city often states that disasters are covered by CIRSA insurance, which is true for the city, but the citizens not so much. They have to deal with that on their own. Some other ideas, I'm always promoting efficiencies and like council to discuss individual employee incentive programs with the new city manager for employee suggestions that become implemented. This works well in the private sector. One thing we talked about is risk when we're talking about the reserve. It's based on a rigorous risk analysis, not a percentage of revenue. Summary of threats, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats is used in the private sector. The reserve should be reflective of risks appropriate to our town and not some arbitrary number. I would like to council also to consider zero-based budgeting with the new city manager. One obvious place where we talked about last year was vehicles. We did a vehicle study, and that's another opportunity. Thank you.
Hillary?
Well, for many of you, I don't know if you know this or not, but Kelly and I actually work at Keller Williams together, and Kelly is a mentor of mine in the sense of the budget because she has so much experience with it, and we happen to share the same principles of that. So I strongly support what Kelly had to say. I also know that John and Val worked really hard to get somewhere around $820,000 put into our reserve. So I champion what both of them have to say about the budget. And in my frank opinion, the adjustments will come with a new city manager and new city council, and I think that's where it starts, and that's the most important place to start it. Thanks.
Okay. Hillary, I'm going to start this questioning with you.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Rebuttal.
Oh, I'm sorry, rebuttal. Do we had one for Noel?
Yes. Yeah. John, thank you. You brought up my name. Because I got rudely interrupted by 1 minute and 30 seconds, I couldn't finish what I was saying. So I will just get right to the point. I am a huge supporter of the police department. I truly think that they are underpaid. They're not sure I can say it, but I believe they're understaffed. And I think we're going to have to look at more staffing, and we're going to have to look at budget for more police officers. The 10% reserve is critical to me. In fact, I was the one that brought 20%, and it was an interesting thing of events, and I think what we're going to do if I get reelected is we're going to move it. We're going to do 12%, 15%. We're going to do it in increments through the next few years to get that up to 20%. I think that's the best place to be based on we don't know what the true cost of the aquatic center is. And that is the big gray cloud that a lot of us on council now are wrestling with, and we want to make sure that if it costs more, hopefully it costs less, but if it costs more than we've budgeted for, we have room to move over and pay for that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other rebuttal? Okay. Hillary, question. What business would you like to see come to Woodland Park, and how would you propose attracting it?
Well, I think everybody would love to see more restaurants, more variety in our food options. We have great restaurants to start with, but I do hear a lot of chatter about new restaurants, new food choices. I think it's difficult. I think that as being on city council and being a function of the city, it's important not to interfere with private businesses. I think that attracting new businesses would start by cleaning up downtown, being able to do some cleaning that we haven't been able to do because of some EPA regulations, but we found ways to work around those regulations. So I think this new city manager will probably work with us in allowing us to clean up our town. I think that it would be great to bring more concerts and have the city manager be not just in the office but out attracting new festivals, concert, what do I want to say? Not concert goers, but people who put on concerts, musicians. I think that they could get out and network, and I think that city council could get out and network. I think improving our website maybe and attracting new musicians and new business that way. We've got a great citizen over here who does wonderful videos for the internet and can help us let our city shine and promote. But I think we have to be careful not to cross the line of city and government duties versus private business.
Thank you. Neil?
Yes, I agree with Hillary in this regard. I don't see city government getting involved in free enterprise. That said, I've been in business here as long as anybody in this room and probably longer. Understand, listen closely, this is a tough place to do business. And new restaurants are going to come here because you got 4 or 5 or 8 or 12 or 15 that all struggle every day of the week. And so be realistic in what your expectations are. It's a business environment that is very, very difficult. Now, can we improve that? Absolutely. And that's where I would start. To me, we have a beautiful downtown. I think it's as clean as any town that I drive through. So the idea that we need to clean our community better, our downtown, our Main Street, where the city's concerned, is ludicrous to me. Because no one's cleaning my building except me. And that's how I would expect everybody on Main Street to proceed. Take responsibility for yourself. Try to get better. And let's work together to try to figure out what's next for all of us.
Okay, thank you, Neil. George?
Thank you. So I would echo what Neil says. I would caveat, though, I'd like to see an outdoor gear and apparel shop. That'd be awesome. But on a serious, well, that was serious. But on another note, though, honestly, John, I would turn the question back to the Chamber of Commerce and to Main Street. As a new business owner, I don't really want the city to encourage certain businesses over others. I think that we really should be allowing business to flourish or to not flourish based on the quality, the service, the viability of the product or service or food or what have you. So I honestly think that this really goes back to the Chamber of Commerce. How are you promoting? How are you drawing? Same thing, I'd ask the same question to Main Street.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you. I just have to say that there's 2 entities that were created to try to develop, enhance, better the downtown corridor, which is where most of our businesses are located. That would be the Downtown Development Authority and Main Street. They were created by the City of Woodland Park. They were supported by the City of Woodland Park. It was interesting to me that during this last budget work session, discussions were had about putting them out on their own for various and sundry reasons that I don't have time to go into. I don't understand that, why you would create an entity, support them, provide them a platform with which to operate, gain certifications, do their job according to statute in the state and different organizations, and then put them out on their ear. I think we should embrace them. They are those entities that will help those businesses. It's not the role of city government to create business, to attract business. They're to provide services to the citizens. And I think that it would make more sense to me, not to be accusatory, I'm just confused, why those organizations would be created to do just what this question is talking about. But yet, suddenly, they're not supported. Thank you. Collaboration, free enterprise, great ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. No?
This is an easy question. So Main Street does a report every year or 2 years of...
I just won't repeat that. Main Street, every year or every 2 years, does a loss report of how much goes down the hill to purchase items. And so if you're bringing a business up here, first place I would go is Main Street, look at that report, and open a shoe store. Because we need a shoe store up here. How would I attract business? Events, events, events. Nobody's talking about that. I mean, we are talking about it, but nobody's bringing it up here. We have a bunch of signature events that bring people up to this community. Cruise Above the Clouds, Symphony, Vino and Notes. Every Friday we've got a farmer's market. We have events, but we need more signature events that are annual, that put Woodland Park on the map. Wow, 30 seconds. Events. That's really keeping our... Oh, you know what? Have people move up here. I mean, let's keep our parks clean. Let's keep our streets safe. Let's have a nice police presence. I mean, that it's all... It's God, there's so much that can bring people up here and have businesses. But shoe store, I think, is one of that was on the loss, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
John?
I think there's a niche group here. I would call them school kids, teenagers, those who are looking for activities to do, and there aren't many here. Certainly Memorial Park and the Aquatic Center are good for doing that. And I know we had a store or a video center or bowling alley combination that was going in Woodland Station at one point, and of course ECWA's couldn't come up with enough equity to make that happen. But I think we need other outlets for kids with lots of energy, particularly thinking about winter weather when they're pretty well have to stay inside somewhere. So I would suggest we try to get some kind of activity encompassing a lot of different kinds of things to do, including bowling, and find a place to put it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Mark?
I think this is a real slippery slope as far as concerns for the city, and it definitely, I know, the reason we have the DDA and some of these other entities to help the business, and I think from a city perspective, I'd love to see the city collaborate more and support those organizations. I'm a big believer in free enterprise, and I think if there's any private enterprises that are looking to come into an area, they're going to do their research. They're going to, understand their market and their niche, and they're going to, pursue that market. That's what I see in my day to day, and we need to to really take it down, I think you got to let private industry do its thing. They're going to come and they're going to go. They're going to have successes. They're going to have failures. And that's, just that's part of the business cycle. And as a city, we're not responsible, for that. We want to have successful businesses, and I'd love to see businesses that complement our existing businesses so that, when people come to one store, they go, oh, look what else I found. Look where else I can go. Look at these other things I can do. And I also think with the events, I think the events are very, it gives those businesses that we do have exposure that they would not necessarily have people just driving through, on 24.
I'm going to turn to the media, and we've got 3 of you here.
Yep, Val.
Val, I'm sorry, Val. Excuse me. I keep on wanting to look left, and I didn't do it.
Thank you. So this being last is always, you've heard everything I'm going to say, but that's all right. I'll do it anyway. One of the great ideas I thought coming up here was the Flying W. Now, granted, the situation and the location was not good, but I saw an opportunity there. As the mayor says, Neil says, it's really tough to do business up here. Free market is what I'm all about. So if somebody can come in and add yet another auto parts store, God bless them. Good luck. But the business plans of some of these things that come and go in here are always questionable to me. I keep kind of kidding around saying we need a bowling alley with a Dairy Queen in it and a video room. But the events is really what I'm about, and I think it's not really a business but an attitude that we bring that. As mayor, I'll endeavor to pursue more diversified events and activities to complement our natural resources and environment. We have so many recreational features to promote, including trails, views, fishing, picnicking, ATV, and off-road access. Some business interests for our visitors include many of the already existing dining options. I'm not sure bringing another one of them is going to be helpful. Main Street volunteers are always working to enhance our downtown quarter with event support, rest areas, signage, kiosks, and rehab projects in support of the local business. I'm not really in favor of the city doing anything, but new businesses are always welcome. Good luck. It's tough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I can turn to. Want to go first? Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for your interest in serving our city here. We are all very good people doing that, and I hope those of you who don't win will continue to come to city council meetings and voice your opinions. It's very important to me. My question is, I don't know if any of you have ever had a water line break outside your house. I've had 2 in the last 27 years. And it's really nice to know that the city is going to be there as quickly as possible to respond to those emergencies. Now, we had a VERC study not long ago, and it was recommended that several vehicles be eliminated, and also for some of the emergency personnel who take their vehicles home will not be allowed to take their vehicles home. Now, my question is, do you believe that certain utility workers should be allowed to drive their work vehicles home so that they can respond to an emergency faster? For instance, a water main break.
George, we'll start with you.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, I do.
Great. Put it down. Yeah. Kelly, what about you?
Is that a good idea?
I do, and I would elaborate to say that I don't believe that the recommendations included emergency response people. I believe that the recommendations of the VERC, is that the correct terminology, was for vehicles that go home for non-call-out folks. There are folks that are department managers that drive home that are not called out on emergency response. A pool vehicle works well for administrative people. To have a pool for the finance staff to go to the bank once a week to take the cash to the bank. For the planning folks to go out and post signs during the day. There are ways to make pool vehicles work for administrative staff that don't get called out on emergencies in the evening. Obviously, police officers are able to respond on duty and then get to their location of the vehicles and respond to emergencies as needed. I don't believe the police officers drive their vehicles home other than the supervisory staff because they're the first called out. So I believe that it was, they were responsible in their recommendations of what vehicles, and I don't believe it was emergency response. So long answer, short response is yes. I believe that's true.
No?
Thank you.
We're going to have to work together to get better questions, okay? Next time. But the answer is yes, of course. How fast did they fix your water main break? Pretty quick. Okay, excellent. Since you brought up the VERC, the VERC started out as a very good idea, and it still is. It's still, it's on the table. My problem with the VERC is when there was a request to remove 15 vehicles, I just felt that was too many vehicles too quickly. Maybe 1 or 2 vehicles a year, see how it works out. Maybe if it works out, then we look at another vehicle. We look at another vehicle. That's why I called Fountain to talk about how they did their vehicle programs, and they of course did leasing. So my concern with removing too many vehicles too quickly was that you're going to start now putting high mileage on the vehicles that are left over, and they're going to need more maintenance, and now they're going to have a quicker turnover. So are you really saving money because now you're putting more wear and tear on these vehicles? I mean, that's always up for debate. But my bottom line is if there's a tipping point where we get rid of too many vehicles, it's going to cost way too much to replace them, and that whole idea of removing vehicles and saving money is gone. So, but I'm glad your water main got fixed quickly. Twice. Wow, you should move.
Thank you, no. John?
Boy, I hate to get started on this.
Oh, sorry.
By the way, VERC stands for VURC, Vehicle Usage Review Committee. We did not look at equipment trucks, police vehicles. We looked rather at 35 sedans and pickup trucks. And if I misspeak, please correct me. Those 35 vehicles had, on average, a usage rate of 35%. That means they were used 35% of an average day. They sat idle 65%. Now look at the data, and we said, gosh, there's a great opportunity there to get rid of vehicles. We suggested 15. It could have been more. So think of that. 1/3 of the day the vehicle's being used, 2/3 of the day it's sitting idle somewhere. And many of those, maybe 9, went home with the directors overnight. That would give us an opportunity to save $250,000 a year, every year, 15 vehicles out. It would mean that some motor pool would have to be established and operated for some individuals. But so what? Is that worth going for? $250,000.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Mark?
I'm going to take the short answer here. And, I think it's imperative. We count on our city for certain services, and especially with water main breaks. I'm completely in support of the people that, bringing those services to us, being able to have their vehicles at home.
Val?
Thank you. So I was part of the Vehicle Usage Review Committee as well. We did study emergency vehicles. All these vehicles were light sedans with not specialty tools or anything. So we evaluated emergencies, different emergencies. And there were certainly some emergency usage that was justified, and there was what was qualified as emergencies that wasn't justified. In other words, it was just a commuter vehicle. So where there was a commuter vehicle without a real emergency associated with it, what normal common people call an emergency, we recommended that they switch to personally owned vehicles like the government does, much the state does. But there are certainly some vehicles that are required for emergencies, And our statistics were raising, by getting rid of 15 vehicles, we raised from 29% usage to 33% usage, close to the 35. But the question was, do some of the vehicles need to be used as take-home for emergencies? That's correct.
Hillary?
I had the opportunity to see the VRUC study, and I actually agree with it. I know that they didn't touch on emergency vehicles and vehicles that are necessary to come to like the water main breaks. And I do think it's important that employees have access to those to respond to emergencies as fast as possible. But I also think that it's not necessary for every single city employee to have a car that they can drive around 35% of the time. So that's my opinion.
Neil?
Well, again, short answer is certainly yes, Bob, but I definitely want to be sure that we can maintain the same service to our citizens that we've always provided. I think that's first and foremost. And this isn't really a question about VERC, although everyone's talking about VERC, so my approach was this. I don't think it's the city council's job to tell the city manager how many vehicles to cut back. I think it's the city council's job to ask the city manager if we can save money in vehicle usage and then have him come back with his response. So let's suppose the number is $250,000, which I would disagree with, but if it was, city manager, please, we want you to take a look at our vehicle usage and let's see, we think we can save $250,000 a year. Can you research this and come back to us with an answer? And that's just my approach. I'm not a micromanager. If we hire a city manager, I want him to do his job with us leading the way, not with us doing his job.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, I'd like to do a quick rebuttal. When the VERC started, immediately our current city manager did look at the vehicles, and he did immediately remove 2 vehicles from service. So that was a good start. So I just wanted to add that to the comments.
Thank you. Had another question?
Okay. I know that City Council is not in the business of picking winners and losers, but how can the city change the ordinances, regulations, and zoning to make business climate better? Why is business so tough to do here? Is there something, and how would you help that?
Kelly, we'll start with you.
This is a very challenging question. It's something that we, as a staff, when I was on staff at the city, struggled with. Sorry, I know it's. This is something that as when I served on the staff, that we struggled with all the time and talked about all the time. I know that in the finance department, we were very willing to discuss and work with people when times were tough. And people were grateful for that and almost always satisfied their obligation to the city. And I'm speaking of sales tax payments. I think we regulate ourselves and our businesses into a big circle. There's sign ordinances, there's this, there's that they have to jump through. An example that I've noticed recently is the food cart that showed up and which thought they went through the right motions to set up at the Arctic Cat dealer over the last week or two. They immediately got shut down. I went to get lunch there. They were gone. And I saw that they were going through more bureaucracy is the favorite word that people like to call it, because they didn't have one more thing that they needed to be able to operate. They had their health certificate, they had their business license, they had this, they had that. Now they're still waiting for a decision to be made on whether or not that location is okay. seems that a more friendly environment would be to get right on that and make sure that and say yes or no, if that location's okay.
No?
Thank you.
Our town is seasonal, and most of our revenue comes in the summer months and December for Christmas. And that's what makes it tough in this town. I think any town that's seasonal closes down when it's out of season. So how do we improve? So I'm not going to say it's tough to do business up here. I'm going to say it's definitely when the going's good, you make sure you make your money at that time. I actually see it with my computer business, my small computer business that I've had here since 2001. I mean, I see where January and February after Christmas, I don't get as many calls. That's probably because everybody's worried about their credit card debt. So I truly believe the problems up here are seasonal. I'm not sure that the issues through the city are a huge struggle because we do have a lot of new businesses up here. So when I step back and look at it, to me, and we get the revenue reports every month on how much revenue we were increased from the previous year's month. There's definitely certain months, summer months and December, that we bring in the biggest revenue. So I'm not going to say it's tough to do business up here. I'm just going to say you've got to realize that it's seasonal.
Thank you. John?
There is, and actually there must be, a disciplined process getting from someone buying a piece of property and having some idea if they'd like to put a house on it. We have certain zoning, ordinances, codes that all have to be followed. I know that Sally Riley, the city planning director, and her crew are continually looking for ways to shorten the process, streamline it, do other things. But I have a personal example that I want to just mention briefly. I worked for 10 years with Habitat for Humanity. And when we bought a piece of property here in the city, and this was going to be our first project within the city limits, this is going back to 2009, I took that on personally as my task to get a project started. Sally and I worked for 16 months on everything that was required for that project, 6 townhomes and 2 buildings, and a notebook about yay thick, but I satisfied all the requirements, but that's what it took. There's another discussion underway now that will influence building in the future, I believe, and that's the International Building Code. Meeting this afternoon with developers about how much more is it going to cost to build a house if we satisfy this code.
Okay, thank you, John.
And I won't tell you the answer.
Thank you. Leave us in suspense.
Yeah.
Mark?
Could I ask for a repeat of the question?
The city, I know the city is not in the business of picking winners and losers, but how can the city change ordinances, regulations, and zoning to make the business climate better? Why is business tough, and how can you fix it?
Well, I think as far as business being tough, yeah, I mean we do have a seasonal impact here, to our community. And I find this really interesting, and just because of my knowledge of working with the city personally, and then in projects that I've done financing on, and I'll tell you, it's very interesting because when you go in prepared, I found that the city's behind you 100%. If you come in, you have questions, that type of thing, especially on the personal side. On the flip side, I've had 2 other dealings with the city from a commercial perspective. And, it's kind of the tale of 2 projects, if you will. And one was very prepared, and the other one needed a little bit more work. But the whole time I saw the city, really work diligently to move these projects forward. we certainly can't pick winners and losers, and especially in the field that I come from, I see a lot of times, especially from new businesses, it's not necessarily the rules. We all know the rules going into whatever endeavor you're going into, but a lot of times it's just there's a lack of working capital, and they're underfunded from a business perspective, and so that is what I see ends up being the greatest impact. And maybe something that in collaboration with some other organizations we could help new business owners with.
Thank you, Mark. Val?
Thank you. I beg your pardon. We're almost over. Okay. Suck it up. One of the things I talk with businesses who are trying to come into town, existing businesses, it's one of the reasons I ran 2 years ago, was business-friendly council person, trying to bring my experience from my private sector wins and losses. I had 2 not so good businesses, I had 2 great businesses, and translate that to what's going on in Woodland Park. As with every place, that the regulation burden on doing anything, including Woodland Park, has become onerous for people, and there's associated fees, and they're dictated by federal, state statutes, things like that. So it's not their intent to make them onerous, it just becomes that way. And then, of course, you have to have fees and things like that to offset the costs that are going on. One of the things I see with businesses is they really don't do a very good, what I'd call a business plan, not an SBA business plan, but they don't really calculate those things so well. They don't account for all those things up front. They're not a moving target. They really aren't. And they think they're going to hire somebody for $10 an hour and it costs them $15 an hour. There goes their business plan. So I think as far as ordinance, regular zoning, we can take a harder look at it with City Council when they come before us, but they don't always come before us. And I'm hopeful that we can, as council, pay attention to those business owners' hindrances. Thank you.
Hillary?
Well, I think that we actually have 2 really great organizations up here that can help with new business owners. I think it might be the city's job to make sure that the new business owners are introduced to those organizations like Main Street and the DDA. We have really high tax rates up here. Commercial property is taxed at 4 times the rate of residential. I don't know how many business owners or new business owners recognize that. So I think that education could be a key part to successful businesses up here, understanding how the DDA works in support of new businesses and understanding what Main Street can do for them. Because again, it's a difficult line to walk between government and private property, private business rights. So I think that there may be educational opportunities that we could do. Certainly the Chamber of Commerce, making sure that the volunteer organizations and the Chamber of Commerce are working together, maybe a little bit of oversight of that, and I think that would help new business owners at least know the channels that they can access for support. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil?
Thank you. I'm a bit of an anomaly here because I do business here and I do business in Colorado Springs, and I've done business in both places for over 20 years. The property tax issue is a statewide issue. Throw that out. It is much easier to do business in Colorado Springs than it is here. I always feel like I could do twice as much business down in Colorado Springs with my same business here. But of course, I'm not going to be able to do that. So my question to you, Norm, and everybody here is, why would you open a business in Woodland Park? Because it's very, very difficult to make money. And you see the mom and pops, and you see the little stores, and you see what's going on Main Street. But here's the stark reality. The businesses in our town that are supporting us and are providing the most sales tax revenue are the big boxes. Because Mark alluded to it. They're the ones that have the resources. They're the ones that have the business plan, and they're the ones that know how to do business. I wouldn't put the onus on DDA or Main Street. That is not their job. They can help recruit businesses to come to town, but once they get here, That's about as far as it can go. And so in terms of recruiting new, better businesses, I would say good luck. Because 20 minutes away, you can make twice as much money. And so why would I come to business in Woodland Park?
Thank you, Neil. George?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe instead of the sort of the negative stories about food trucks and other, how difficult it is to be up here, and if we're just going to tell stories, I'll just throw one out there. My wife and I started a business in Woodland Park, right on Main Street. It's only literally 4 weeks old, but it's doing well. There's people all over the place. We have daily traffic and flow. We have a ton of support from Main Street. We have support from the chamber, and just the local community has been fantastic. So now, maybe that won't be a sustainable model over time, but to Mark's point, absolutely we're prepared for that. We got our business up and running in 30 days, so shame on the food truck. This kind of thing where we take one story and we say, oh, it's tough to do business here, I'd counter that and say, be disciplined, be prepared, right? Have a model and have some capital behind it.
Okay. We have another question from the media?
We have a question on social media, if that counts.
That doesn't count tonight, sorry.
Have you another question?
From Gazette. Do you have a question?
Is there a question? Okay. We're going to do one more question. And I believe this one starts with you, Noel. Correct?
Oh, I thought we were going into...
We will right after this question.
Well, darn.
You were hoping.
Make that happen.
Oh, great. In lieu of the numerous media articles and social media posts that have referenced candidates in this election, one might say there is a perceived contentiousness in the community. If elected, how will you engage to enhance the image of Woodland Park?
How would I engage to enhance? Well, I'd probably close my Facebook account. That would be start number one. Well, enhancing, we're representing the community up here. How are we enhancing it? We're enhancing it by making this community better as a whole, to make people brag about their community, to give opportunities with events up here so people come up here and can see how amazing our community is. It's kind of a trick question because social media will take care of itself. And I think it is right now. I believe the community page, which a lot of us are familiar with, has started to really take care of itself and try to curtail the negative posts. But social media is always going to be there. That's a tough question to answer. I think it's too broad to really narrow down. But if I'm elected or re-elected, I'm going to stay off of Facebook. So,
You learned a lesson, huh?
Thank you.
John?
Maybe I shouldn't admit it, but I'm not a social media guy. I'm just not. I don't have the time to waste. And who's interested in where I am and what I am doing at some precise moment? I think some of the discussions we've had at recent city council meetings have been good. We don't always agree. I think a little emotion is okay at times. We talked about how we ought to be acting earlier to a question, and I think we ought to respect one another. But the fact that we sometimes vociferously disagree with another individual is just part of doing business with the council, I think. So I'm not qualified to talk about social media. Thank you.
Mark?
Well, I think this goes back to a couple different areas. I think first of all, we need to be professional from a council perspective and respectful of each, all the different individuals and the opinions. mean, certainly this is an open forum for debate. There's going to be, arguments, but I think being professional during that time is extremely important. And so, I think that would, over time, start to eliminate some of this perceived contentiousness that is there. But then I think there are things that do come up in social media, and it's amazing when you go and do the background and actually get the information from the source. So whatever the question may be, or what topic is being addressed, and you go to the city and you start to dig deeper. I'd love to see that our city be a little bit more proactive in addressing some of these rumors and some of the concerns that do come up, so that the perception can be eliminated. We can focus more. We so often we get bogged down in the negative. You turn on the TV, it's negative. The news, that type of thing. How big of a difference would it make if we could bring some positive stories? Maybe it start to impact the business environment. Maybe make some changes to what's going on here in Woodland Park. So that's where I stand.
Okay, thank you. Val?
Can I see the second page, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So in my book, it's all about professionalism and factual presentations. We all know social media. I've been with social media forever, from the first days of bulletin boards, first days of the internet were actually bulletin board systems. And they're always contentious. There's always nonsense going on out there. There's always non-factual. There's mischaracterization. There's lies, everything. So for us on city council, mayor, and the city staff, they're all well versed at not saying anything that's contentious, but sometimes the facts get under people's skin that aren't facts at all. They're misrepresentations. So I think as a city council person and as a mayor, I will demand that we have a better professional presentation in our meetings, in our council meetings, in our daily life when we go out in the community, and hopefully everybody will start to see our model of professionalism and decorum, and keep their level down from the volatile contentiousness that we see.
Okay, thank you. Hillary?
Well, I think part of it starts with being able to communicate one-on-one with each other. So if there's contention amongst us on council, I think there's no harm in a phone call or a cup of coffee to resolve issues that you have with each other, instead of bringing it in front of the community and in front of the cameras. I think that some of those things can be personally resolved and not done in front of the community, because I think that what happens is the perception becomes that you have lost sight of the community and the voters' will, and it's become about yourself, and that's not what this position is about. I know that there's been issues with Chamber of Commerce, and I've watched the council meetings, and instead of the issue being resolved, I've heard council people say they've heard rumors. And instead, I think that they should come to chambers and say, these rumors exist, I would like to get to the bottom of it, how can we fix the perception of what's going on? I don't think there's anything wrong with saying something's happening, there's a perception, how do we resolve it amongst ourselves so that we can present better to the community and resolve these issues faster? And that's my opinion. So.
Okay. Neil?
Thank you. I think we'll all agree that social media is here to stay, and we'll have to deal with it. Hopefully, as Noel alluded to, that the social media is getting better, getting maybe a little more honest, if you will, a little more factual. But the big question lies with leadership. And so it starts with me. It starts with the mayor. We need to have better civil discourse. We need to communicate better. We need to respectfully disagree with each other. And we just need to do a better job overall. And I don't know that anybody can disagree with that. We've run into some issues this year the last couple of years that are kind of new to us, and I'll be the first to say we probably could have handled them a lot better. And so, I got a chance to hear Tony Dungy talk at Charis Bible College last week, and his message was this. After he won a Super Bowl in 2007, his message to his team was this: what's next? Right? So what's next for all of us? How can we get better? How can we work together? How can we be honest in our discussions to do what we all want? And that's to make Woodland Park as good a place as anywhere for all of us to live.
George?
Thank you. So, I'm the last one on this one, and I would echo...
One more.
Oh, no, sorry. Okay. I would echo what most folks have said. Professionalism, the discipline and decorum, getting better, right? And Hillary's idea of just coming together. One thing I would slightly disagree with, and I kind of point towards Noel so he gets a chance to rebut the thing. But the idea that you disengage is looked at, so no voice is a negative thing. And if we as a council pull ourselves away from the community, the social community that exists out there, that would be a problem. We're not able to address, we're not able to tackle rumors in the media or in the medium that our citizenry is using. So to just simply disengage, I think, would be a problem. I don't know that you actually mean that, Noel, so I'm not calling you out specifically, but the idea of disengaging in general is problematic.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you. First, I'd just like to say that the taco truck, just a little rebuttal before I get started, it's not shame on them. They thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were doing what they were supposed to do, only to find out there was more. So I don't want to shame any business that's trying to make a go of it in town, George. But thank you. As far as the image, I guess I missed it. I see a lot of people talking good things about themselves and what they'd like to accomplish and do, but I've learned in 22 years working in the fishbowl, which is municipal government work, you don't engage in the press. You'll lose every time. And so that means in the social press as well. I've learned that lesson. I'm still learning it because sometimes my emotions get the best of me. And I try to stop myself. I need therapy, I think, or something. Anyway, I certainly have not meant to come across in a negative fashion this evening. I just see opportunities for improvement in many different areas. And I just have to say that I think things have been pretty civil. I think we've all done a good job. I've been having some weekly meet and greets, and a lot of the candidates show up. And I love it because it's about the people, and we're there to answer their questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
I didn't even see
Did you have a rebuttal?
Do you want to say my name again so I can have 3 minutes?
No.
No.
Can I get 3 minutes now?
No.
I didn't mean it. I really didn't
okay.
say his name.
Yes, I'd like to. I don't really disengage. People that know me know that I monitor the community page. I monitor all the Facebook pages. I need to know what's going on in this community. And that's part of what I do. I'm a computer guy. I mean, I make sure that everything's what's going on. I want to know what people are thinking in this community. The one thing that I've learned to do is not respond. And I've been called out many a times in the last 4 years. I've been called some things, and I just go, you know what, this will pass. I'm not going to respond. And that's where I think as a representative of this community, you want me not to start an argument on Facebook. That's insane. So I'm trying to be mature and professional on Facebook, and I will update with political stuff. Sorry, community page, but right now I'm still going to monitor and make sure the community, what's going on in the community.
Okay, thank you, Noel. Okay, we're going to start the closing statements. John, we're going to start with you.
All right. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this candidates forum this evening. It gives you, the public, an opportunity to hear from 8 candidates. I remember 4 years ago when 3 of us ran unopposed. It was a boring forum. Maybe this one is too. This year we have 6 candidates vying for 3 council positions. This is much better. It's the way a democracy should work, and I thank all 7 candidates for joining the fray. But make no mistake, we candidates are not alike. Val Carr, Hillary LaBarre, Kelly Case, and I know that as a community, we can do better. The other side thinks the status quo is what you citizens want, that you're satisfied with the lack of transparency and less oversight provided by the mayor and his deputies, who are always ready to rubber stamp whatever the self-avowed tax and spend liberal wants, usually growing the government, more spending and more taxing. They recognize no limits when your dollars are involved. On the other hand, we of the We Can Do Better persuasion still believe that Woodland Park is a conservative mountain city that desires less government and lower taxes. We increased the emergency reserve in this budget to 10%, as you heard earlier, approximately $820,000 of the general fund. This is a beginning to other significant reductions in future budgets if you give us the opportunity to lead the council down the conservative path to prosperity. Please, what's next? Give us a chance to show you that we can do better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Well, that's an interesting one to follow up, because I think I've been thrown into a category there, which just is not the case. I can't say that, John, you and I have ever talked about, my feelings on that, but to keep it in a different path, right now our city is about to embark on a new era as we bring on a new city manager. This is a great opportunity to really, move the city forward. I have a history in banking and have, bulk of my professional career I've been in banking, and so from a financial standpoint, and I think based on some of the comments I've had tonight, you can see I definitely am fiscally conservative and really want a strong balance sheet in my world, but strong, reserve fund balance for the city. I am not a rubber stamp person. I research and dig deep into everything, and actually take slight to being tossed into that group. What I do want to bring is I want to bring a fresh perspective. I have a history of working collaboratively to reach common goals, and I think obviously we have some very common goals that we want to see as a city. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of conversations, and I feel that we very compelled to be a voice and an advocate for our citizens, for our city staff, and just our general public. I want to say I've truly appreciated the opportunity and enjoyed this opportunity to be a candidate, and would really appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Val?
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, my fellow candidates and participating citizens for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and to review for qualities I believe will serve well as mayor. I have a unique and highly successful engineering background that I applied to extensive city council and committee experience. I've started and run very successful small businesses, which is crucial in considering business-related issues as mayor. I have the Western heritage to offer to keep Woodland Park a sanctuary for amenities, values, and atmosphere compatible with the reasons most of us live here. And the threads. I've got the threads for speeches. Anyway, as mayor, I will represent the citizens only, not the good old boys network, run city council meetings with more decorum and civility from council, end the practice of rubber stamping city staff demands, stop any potential abusive power situations, stop overpaying for expensive capital projects with open bidding, competition, and performance clauses in all contracts. No sweetheart deals or cronyism. Ensure subcontractors are covered when the city pays for products and services. Ensure projects are designed with leading-edge, cost-efficient considerations, not stale study idea conscriptions. Hold the council to more transparency in the meetings. Try to convince council and the new city manager to do zero-based budgeting instead of annual wish list budgeting. Examine the city budget throughout the year, not just at the end of the year. Be a strong, active leader to inspire the council to invest energy to read, study, analyze, and propose solutions. Change the attitude of the council to seek unbounded ways to save citizens dollars. Present the new city manager with past ideas for budget savings and methods of efficiency that maintain city services. Work to concentrate a larger focus on current citizens and aging Woodland Park citizens' needs, including keeping them in their homes. I hope you support my vision of a greater Woodland Park by casting your vote for Val Carr as Woodland Park City Mayor. Thank you very much.
Hillary.
I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting tonight, and I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight, because I know how much you care about the community if you're willing to sit through this. So, and I'll be honest, I'm running because citizens in the community approached me and they were concerned. They were concerned about the transparency of government. They were concerned about how their tax dollars were being used. They're especially concerned that council can sit up here together and not agree on how much the aquatic center costs to be built. And that worries me as well as a citizen. So that's why I'm running. I want to be able to have those answers, have that transparency, make sure that you are well represented and that your voice is heard, and that a city council that is this small in a town this small can't get away with not answering to you. That is my most important goal, being a part of this city council if I get on. So thanks for everybody for being here this evening.
Thank you, Hillary. Neil.
Thanks, John. I want to close by talking a little bit about me. I've never been comfortable talking about my accomplishments or virtues, but I believe if there's a time to do that, it's right now. Since being selected by the City Council to be your mayor 4 years ago, I've worked tirelessly to make Woodland Park an even better place to live. It's been an incredible, rewarding experience that I never honestly dreamed could happen. And as I look back over the last 4 years, I see how much I've learned and how much I've improved my leadership skills and abilities. I'm so thankful that you supported my efforts in re-electing me in 2016. I've represented you well throughout our community, our county, and our region. I have nurtured existing relationships and built new ones along the way. These relationships are and will continue to be tremendous resources that will benefit all of us as we and our city move forward. I stand here today even more vested than ever in the city of Woodland Park, and I'm better equipped than ever to continue to lead this community to be the very best it can be. Thanks again, and regardless of the upcoming election, I feel honored and blessed to have served you these last 4 years. And those that know me know that no matter what happens, I will not step aside. I would greatly appreciate your continued support and your vote for Mayor of Woodland Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. George.
Thank you, John. So again, thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to the citizens that showed tonight, to those who are watching online. engaging in social media. Much appreciated. Again, I would echo that this is a great process. It might have been boring years ago, but I think this is a nice way to hone and vet not only our own thoughts, but to hear more of what the citizens of Woodland Park are asking. So as that, I'm just going to close with that quote I started with. Leadership is an art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. As a consultant, an investor, small business entrepreneur, I believe in 3 key attributes of a leader: discipline, strength, and commitment. These same attributes will define the future of Woodland Park over the coming years. Discipline in our governance, strength in our core services, our core city services, and commitment to our community at large. I ask that you vote for me, George Jones, for City Council. Leadership with a fresh perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Kelly?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the audience, both here and online, and all the citizens of Woodland Park and the other candidates this evening for this exchange. There are no sides here. Not to contradict what someone has said, but there are no sides here. I hear other conservatives on this panel, and those views are valid, and your choice is not going to be an easy one. I don't envy you, but I'm going to vote too. As Hillary mentioned, remember, before I go on, this is about this community. It's not about me. It's not about anyone else on this panel. This is about our community. And all of us have to work together to get to an end that is gratifying. As Hillary mentioned, I too am a 4th generation native of Colorado. I'm in love with this city, this state, and this country. And yes, I am a hardliner when it comes to fiscal policy. As you've heard me make some statements that might have sealed the coffin for me. I hope you don't fault me for that. I see this as an opportunity to make a difference and give back to the city that has given me so much over the last 20 years. Please help me to continue my calling to serve as I spend the next 4 years, hopefully, as one of your city council members. As my mom always said, I am honored to serve, if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Thank you for your time and good evening.
Noel?
All right. Last. Thank you, John. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this event. And thank you to the community for listening to this committed group of volunteers that love this small town. I'm just an average guy. I work a 9-to-5 job to support the family I love. I have a mortgage, a car payment, credit cards, and most of the standard bills that everyone wish they didn't have. I change the oil on my car to save money and begrudgingly mow the lawn when my wife tells me to. Does this sound familiar? We are all alike in many, many ways. Like many of you, I have a superstar son that is currently attending Woodland Park High School. He is proud of his school, and tomorrow he is running for class president. Good luck, son. I love you. We all have our own political views, but deep down, we want the same thing. A better life. A better life for our family, a better life for our neighbor, and a better future for the community we live in. I'm running for re-election because I want to continue to be the solution that makes life better in Woodland Park. I'm Noel Sawyer, and I'm asking for your vote to keep Woodland Park that shining city above the clouds. Thank you very much.
Senator, thank you for all of the candidates. And also, a thank you to you for being gracious and sitting there and listening. Hopefully you're going to be taking home some new information that you didn't have before you walked in the door. So everybody have a safe trip home and have a good night. Thank you.
He is running for class president.
And thank you
So
for
Thank you.
all of your time and